Cue the Giacchino score. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wile.
We're not really going to cue the score because of copyright, but we are here to talk about The Incredibles 20th anniversary. Hashtag time has no construct. Guys, I got to tell you right off the bat, out of all the anniversaries that we've done, this is straight up the one that makes me feel the most old. I am genuinely having like a Jamie Lee Curtis and Freaky Friday day with this movie. And
I'm like the Crypt Keeper!
No, seriously, because here's the deal. I'm just going to jump right into my thoughts on this thing. When I was 14, when this movie came out, it was my everything. Dragon, as you know, one of the all-time greatest DVD releases Disney ever did. I studied the heck out of this thing. I wore out the DVD discs to the point where, for about a year, from 2004 to 2005, 2006, this was like a weekly watch for me. And because of that, I haven't touched this movie in literally over a decade, guys. Like, I have let this movie sit because at a certain point, I was just like, I've seen this too much. It's overexposed to me. I gotta give it a break. This is literally the first time that I have returned to this movie as an adult. And my God, does it hold up? I mean, Jesus. Yeah, this is, I honestly think I need to do this more often with some of the older Pixar movies because, man, it really reaffirms what a genuine freaking masterstroke this is. Obviously, one of Pixar's all-time best. There's a period where I probably wouldn't have this in my top 5 Pixar movies. I think that's over. I think this is solidly in the Pixar Mount Rushmore. And I'm going to go ahead and quote an internet friend that I knew way back in the day. Haven't talked to him in years and years and years. He probably doesn't even remember me at all. But he had a quote about this movie, a pull quote about this movie, that I want to kind of reference because it always stuck with me. And I'm always like, yeah, that perfectly describes this movie and how good it is. The Incredibles rocked so hard, it caused an earthquake. And that's my overall thoughts going into this thing. All right. Let's see. Jacob, what say you, man?
He's like, well, I can't say I do. Well, and first off, the president is actually Giacchino, not just to get that out of the way.
All right.
Sorry, but
no, that was my bad. You're right. Sorry.
I know, but it's kind of a thing at this point.
No, yeah, it is.
But so anyway, so it's no big deal. But the thing is, I have a bit of a history with this movie as well. I remember when this movie came out. I was 10 years old when this came out. You know, the big 1-0.
That's honestly an even better age for this movie than 14. That's like the perfect age for this movie.
And it came out in November, which was my birth month.
Nice.
So I remember going to a theater, but I wanted to see The Incredibles, but the people we were with went to see Christmas with the Cranks instead. I mean, I did see The Incredibles that month eventually, but I wanted...
Jacob, I'm drinking coffee and I literally just had a Violet Parr style like milk coming out of my nose moment with that one.
Yes, I remember being salty about that.
Oh my God.
And like I said, I know Dragon didn't want to mention. Hold on, I'll get to that later. But obviously, I love this movie.
We can bring up The Incredibles 2. I'm just not allowed to bitch about The Incredibles 2. That's the difference. I'm in this cage, not you. By all means, bring it up.
Well, basically, the only time I'm going to bring it up is the fact that I actually have seen this movie more recently when I managed to see an early double feature, like a double feature where they showed this and then The Incredibles 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that actually might have been the last time I watched this movie. I might have watched it in the meantime, but that's the last time I remember it. And, seeing it as an adult in theaters, I can say it definitely still held up after all that time. And I'm rewatching it again today, and I will say, yeah, it still does hold up. And I said, it's stands as one of Pixar's greatest movies, and definitely one of the greatest superhero films and animated superhero films of all time. Like
Oh, yeah.
where movies like are still need to take cues from this. Like, I mean, heck, if the Fantastic Four ends up being anything like taking cues from this, then it's all gay. It's all good.
That's all we can hope for, Jacob. That's my biggest hope at this point with Fantastic Four. I hear you.
It's like so yeah. It's like I went in, saw the movie, loved it, and I also had the DVD. The DVD was awesome. That's where we all got the whole like we use every part of the buffalo.
Oh yeah, exactly.
which we reference, but Dragon we reference constantly, right?
Yes, we reference Ignosia.
Oh my god.
Pretty
The thing
much.
that I specifically remember about the DVD is that there were so many bonus features on the second disc that there was literally just like a whole ass category that just said more making of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep, including like the feud between Brad Bird and John Walker. And like it's like I'm trying to get this movie across the finish line. Well, I'm trying to get it across the finish line in first place. No, so a lot of good quotes from that. It's like where the making of and behind the scenes stuff is almost as interesting as the movie itself.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I believe it had at least 2 commentary tracks as well.
That is correct, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
All right.
I've given my personal history. Why don't I pass it on to Dragon?
Well, really quick, I'm just going to shout out Little Blue in the comments. He's saying, "Honey, where's my mother effing super suit?" Yeah. All right. Dragon, sir, the floor is yours.
So, one of the best Pixar films. You change the game. First time we're tackling humans, pretty much. It's Pixar challenging themselves as a studio. It was very much kind of it was the gamble. I mean, now Pixar is known for basically being the Vegas of animation studios in terms of gamble after gamble in its foundation.
Well, to be fair, it's not the first time they did humans. This time they used humans as the main cast.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the track record of their humans before this.
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not denying his point. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Technicalities and all that. But
the Toy Story humans are notoriously horrific looking in the first 2 films.
That's why they don't show them that much.
Indeed. All right.
Sorry, Dragon, go on.
Anyway. So, very much, the first time we're tackling humans in a major way. Film overall, it's very much, it's kind of cosmically, it's kind of justice for Brad Bird after the underperformance of Iron Giant, where it's, they kind of pull Brad Bird, I just made a miracle happen here. He did. And, crickets. And now it's like, he finally has like the Iron Giant equivalent in CG animation full on. That everyone is like, oh my god,
freaking Ollie and everything.
Yep. See, that's the key to the major successes. Frank and Ollie.
Remind me, did Frank and Ollie have a cameo in Ratatouille, or were they already gone by that point?
Okay, fair. Well, yeah, they were gone by that point, so that's why.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're both gone by.
Although I can guarantee that he probably would have worked them in if they were still alive.
Oh, can you just imagine them?
Plus, I mean, the thing too
at the end,
Ratatouille became that was a thing too. Ratatouille became a Brad Bird film. So that wasn't.
I don't know about this. I don't know about this restaurant, Frank. There's rats in the kitchen. Yeah, but you got to admit, Ollie, the food is delicious.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, when I first saw this, I saw it with my father as a kid, and it was always he and I have really had an enjoyment of the Pixar films. It's so interesting that with the Brad Bird Pixar films, I always remember those interactions, especially with my father when we saw them. Kind of coming out of I'm hyped up on the animation and everything with the Incredibles. I'm hyped up on. Oh my god, that was the namesake, isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was like my father. Even since Toy Story, I mean, he was always like, "Man, they don't make them. They never made it like that when I was a kid." This is like they're getting better and better. Like, he was always impressed with the medium and everything. And like going from the Incredibles, it was just kind of like such a strong story. He's coming from the Christopher Reeve style of superhero film. Kind of going into it, man, this is what we can really do with this sort of thing. He's never seen a superhero film like that. And by the time we get Ratatouille is like when I'm really starting to pick up on the nuances of like everything that's going into the, it's going into the film, like on the first watch versus the extensive, awesome bonus features. Like in the movies, oh my god, I'm picking up on it naturally. This is like really amazing.
I say this in like the most glowing way possible. Ratatouille is literally baby's first indie movie.
Sure.
No, I don't know. I know that, like, I'm just saying, like, I feel like that movie is such a gateway drug into, like, higher cinema.
But it is, it is very much, it's the touchstone for, animation in terms of, like, when you start noticing all, like, the little things, like, for me, the scene in Ratatouille that really, for me, was, like, the lightning kind of striking moment in which I was really, really reconciling with, man, it's just, there's something extra here in the best of ways where you have, after Linguini releases Remy, the way he runs back there, just like the little, like, I don't know, there's something about that scene that really hit me. Just like hearing like the Foley of like the little rat feet running away, and then he comes back, and then we have the score, and we have the emotion, the lighting. It all just came together in that scene. That's what I'm saying. Incredibles is the rock that church is built upon, dear fellows. It was a benchmark not just for animation, but for superhero films. It's engaging, it's funny, it's fantastic in every way.
And it's incredible.
Well, if you want to be predictable, Jacob. It's unequivocal. It's a perfect film. It changed the game, and game changers are always a delight. And looking back on it, it's your first love, man. It's the little red-haired girl. It's a trip in all the best ways.
Speaking of first loves, Kogias brings up, I know that Tiki and Dragon are incredibly big fans of the because their favorite animated female characters video. And yeah, Dragon, you remember the big thing at the end of that video, right?
Remind me.
We had both of the Incredibles women were our number one pick.
Oh yeah, you had Violet and I had Helen. Yeah, I had Helen, you had Violet. Yeah.
Now, Violet, like looking back on it, Violet as my number one is probably a little overrated. But the thing about Violet for me is she was like my first animated crush. Like I was pretty much exactly her age when the movie came out, and very much that kind of introverted personality. So and then as I get older, I kind of feel like I kind of still view her as kind of like a kindred spirit in a way as a character.
You were Tiki Ridinger.
Oh god! Oh god! Jesus.
Tony Ridinger.
No, honestly, back in the day, I think my fantasy was like she would kind of get over how much of a pretty boy Tony Ridinger was, and see there's the boy who's been hiding in the shadows the whole time, like me.
Oh god,
it's so fucking corny, I know.
Oh yeah, we're lost in the cornfields on that one, Tiki. Wow.
But look, I'll get into it more with Violet, but yeah. Okay. All right, and also Kogias is saying 2004 is quite the year of superhero films between The Great Spider-Man 2, the enjoyably campy Catwoman, and the decent Incredibles.
Oh my goodness!
All right,
what I'm talking about here. Come on.
We also got Lucas Green in the comments. Nice to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a bit. All right, let's get into it, Dragon. I mean, I assume you have some background.
Do I?
You want to just play the more making of features on the Incredibles books?
Let's just wait here for an hour, then we'll actually get started with the podcast. Let me summarize it here. Okay, so obviously, folks, Incredibles, I would highly recommend picking up the fantastic DVD and or Blu-ray, which includes all the DVD features from the original release.
Mm-hmm.
And more features, too.
Does the Disney Plus version have all these?
Do you really have to ask? No, of course not.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world that makes sense, where we have all these features already, let's give everyone their money's worth. But no, Jacob.
Well, I had to ask for posterity, Dragon.
You know what? I find it endlessly entertaining that fucking Jon Favreau's commentary on The Lion King is one of the few actual commentaries that they have on Disney Plus.
Don't remind me.
Why? Why is that one the one that gets the treatment?
Anyway, so way back in the day, after Brad Bird's, is kind of firing / essentially he quit and they kind of officially fired him. Because he was basically challenging. I'm blanking on his name. It was Ed Hansen. Basically mouthed off to Ed Hansen saying, you guys really got to challenge the medium here. And they said, we don't really have room for dreamers like you. And they essentially ripped off his stripes because he was the animation wonderkin. Mm-hmm. They cut him loose. So Brad Bird was kind of aimlessly looking around. He was kind of cultivating some potential feature ideas he was trying to get made. There are three particular films that some of them have gotten some great traction over the years. So this is early 90s. So he tried to get a movie done of the Spirit and did a little kind of pencil test of the Spirit. It looked amazing.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Which again, you can find that pencil test, and it looks fantastic. So basically, what the good version of the Spirit movie would have been had it been animated.
Oh man, that the actual Spirit movie we got is such a hot mess.
Which is why in the Iron Giant we have the Spirit reference.
Indeed.
Ray Gun, which is currently being made. So Ray Gun was one that he had, and also kind of buried within it, early stages of The Incredibles. The Incredibles circa 93 was kind of on the drawing board for him. So it really developed probably in the midst towards the end of the production of The Iron Giant, where basically Brad Bird at this point, he's starting to, has a family. He's getting a little introspective during the crisis that is The Iron Giant, the race to the finish line, and it's kind of a bit of a midlife crisis, kind of looking upon things. And I can't verify this. I would like to think a seed of the idea that probably happens because of the release of Iron Giant is, I just made a miracle happen here. I did something amazing and no one saw it or appreciated, which essentially is Bob's kind of what he's dealing with here, and the glory days going on, where I was a superhero and no one's, and this kind of thanklessly sued and everything, and just kind of put kind of buried on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably that the idea kind of gestated over time, and it's Brad Bird stewing in his juices after what happens to Iron Giant, just kind of looking for his next move. And John Lasseter reaches out to him and basically says, "Hey, we're doing films at Pixar. Why don't you come by and we'll if you have a movie idea." And he pitched in The Incredibles, and he was blown away by it. And essentially, the way Brad Bird has famously phrased it, there's so many great Brad Birdisms we might be kind of sprinkling throughout this conversation, by the way, kids. Basically, Pixar, John Lasseter and everyone kind of feared that Pixar would be in danger of wood fire pizza mode. Now, wood fire pizza mode essentially is just we're the studio that makes hit after hit. Just the fear that Pixar could get complacent in their success. And Brad Bird was brought in there to shake things up so they didn't repeat themselves and just kind of make movies purely with the in-house talent that they had and just kind of played it safe. So Brad Bird brought a lot of his crew from the Iron Giant, pretty much as many people as he could from Iron Giant. So he's bringing John Walker as producer. He's bringing Tony Facilli, Teddy Newton, Pete Sohn, Dave Mullins. And he's also kind of melding some of the Pixar crew, who in turn, by the time we get to Ratatouille onward, they kind of become Brad's guys, like Lou Romano, who played Linguini. Steve Hunter, who did I'm pretty sure Steve Hunter did the short for Spark Shorts. Blanking out the one where the guy swaps with the dog.
Fetch?
No, not Fetch. No, it's
Fetch.
Anyway, I'm blanking on it right now. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, and also Alan Barolaro. So so there was a bit of a culture clash at first. Brad Bird, he was the first outside hire, and he, as we all know, he's strong coffee. He very much has a strong coffee approach to animation, which kind of got from Milt Call, who trained him. Anyway, so he many times he would rally the animators who were very not used to his process of working. Plus, I mean, this is Brad Bird's first time working fully in CG because basically Iron Giant was like the only CG character he'd ever done. So this is like and that was made to look like hand drawn. This is like a completely different sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was like a story where everyone was about to jump ship to Nemo, so he gave this rousing speech, and it was basically him getting redder and redder, and just kind of telling the animators like, "Yeah, it's gonna be great," and they're all just like, they're all terrified. And they're like, "Oh, what have we gotten ourselves into?" Because it was the most challenging production at the time, because again, having convincing and stylized humans in CG, which by the way is the reason they are stylized, because we can't do super realistic humans yet. As Toy Story and other kind of prospects have kind of shown us, humans are tricky. They are difficult. And not only that, are we kind of having humans in a starring role here? Not only humans, superhumans. We also have to apply, the illogical logic to that, and then we have to apply all the simulators to that. Like the most human character we had was Boo in terms of a sustained period of time, not counting the dentist from Nemo, not counting P. Sherman,
and not to mention the fact that all the action sequences and all that too.
All the set pieces, all the locations, and then of course on top of that with the humans, texture, hair, clothes, all of these things when wet, when dry, when flying through the air,
and even capes.
Yep. So essentially, the technical team they were hyperventilating all throughout this production. Like, oh god, like hair is theoretical. What do you mean theoretical? We have 4 years to do this.
Oh god.
So they built they devised, after the main principal characters were designed, they devised the Universal Man, which basically is how we have all the background extras.
Nice.
Anyway, so again, a lot of Brad Birdisms throughout this, one of which being use every part of the buffalo, which basically means, per the Native Americans saying, we, not just do we get the meat from the animal, we use we don't waste anything from this movie. We repurpose it, we make sure we pay it off, nothing is wasted. Let's see. So there's
to the point where he even hung a sign of it in the studio.
Yeah, and so aside from that, the big credo of this film, the big thematic theme throughout the whole film, and the balance struck for the film is that we need to strike a balance of the fantastic and the mundane. Like that was the other big credo of the film. Is if we strike that balance, we'll be in good shape. It's kind of like Richard Donner's verisimilitude kind of credo. It's very much like we're going to. If we can just kind of balance, the super heroics, but also we kind of ground it in a really funny way, it'll work like gangbusters. And well, boy, did it! Let's see. So they had the supervising animators. They ran point on things. The three caballeros, Tiki, caballeros.
Thank you.
You got Tony Facilli, Steve Hunter, and Alan Barolaro. Not Barolero as you'd think. Barolaro, apparently. Sorry, Barriero, I meant. It's like you'd think it'd be Barriero, but it's not. Anyway, so we have Giacchino doing the score. I believe
first Pixar movie not to be scored by one of the Newmans.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, ultimately, like there are a lot of fun stories that are going to happen throughout the thing. Like they kind of disbanded like company birthdays. Like everyone have an individual birthday because the production was so fraught and so around the clock. They basically, okay, look, we're gonna have one big collective birthday. We're gonna have a cake. This is Happy Birthday Gang, and ended up being Happy Birthday Gary through a mishap. So they used to break out Gary's birthday party anytime morale was low. So there was no set birthday. So they would have parties round the clock, and when they'd finalize shots, they do kind of the mariachi bands and everything at Pixar is known for. These guys worked and they earned those parties. I will tell you that because there was this thing throughout the production where they had a used up tube of toothpaste with the Incredibles logo on it that basically represented like how beat the animators were on this film.
Oh,
it'd be like this completely rolled up like empty tube of toothpaste with like, the cap off just to show it's it's like God, they used every part of the buffalo.
And it burned every part of the toothpaste.
Yes, every molecule of toothpaste. So look, I could bore you. I could just direct you to the DVDs. The film was a game changer. Took a lot of work. Fantastic DVD release with a bunch of cool features. Two of which they're the two most notable features to mention. Jack Attack, which is the short film, not aside from Bounden, which showed us is kind of the mid-cool kind of thing where we see what Jack was doing the entire film.
I would dare to say I think that's probably one of the best Pixar shorts that's like tied to a movie.
Yeah.
And it ties into the plot.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, like, and one of the rare ones to actually be like set in the movie itself, and not like a small continuation of the movie itself.
And before we go anywhere, we got to talk about Mr. Incredible and Pals.
Oh God!
Oh my God! Oh Jesus! Yes.
The comments
got
The
endless
in-character
entertainment,
commentary. The in-character commentary.
which is even better than the short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was about to ask with or without the commentary.
With commentary always. I will watch the commentary before I watch it. Frankly.
Like they made me tan.
Oh my
But
God!
you're white. You're blackish.
Look, I truly feel like we could do a whole podcast just on that. So we'd be here all day if we wanted.
The point being that an in-universe like kind of crappy Saturday morning cartoon that was basically, and even Pete Docter's doing the voice of Bob. It's in universe, and then we have the commentary of the characters talking about, and it's just endlessly amusing and entertaining.
And like the extra like little sidekick character.
Mr. Skipperdoo.
Oh my
The bunny,
God, yes.
not just a little sidekick. It's a pink rabbit with glasses on, like Peabody and Sherman
very
style.
distinctly like Hanna-Barbera core.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And here's the thing: Brad Bird loves Johnny Quest. He is one of his earliest animation
exactly.
influences. So that's kind of a bit of a nod to Johnny Quest. Anyway. So again, folks, just endless. Like I could cite a whole bunch of things, like the stamp that says, like, do we like this, or they would stamp on like for the approvals sometimes. But I digress. Let's talk about what we're all here to talk about, folks. After we shout out some nice people in the comments.
Indeed. All right. So Kokias, he's saying in terms of 2004 superhero film, Spider-Man 2 easily wins. Incredibles is technically better made than yeah, you think? I don't know. I mean, I love Catwoman on a so bad it's good level. I could see a certain type of person. Clearly you are having that. As far as like this versus Spider-Man 2, I think it's close. I honestly think Spider-Man 2, for better and worse, did a little bit more for the superhero genre. Like it truly like kind of solidified the blueprint of what a superhero sequel should be,
and at least in terms of live action as well.
By the way, did we ever do a 20th anniversary on fucking Spider-Man 2, or is that one that slipped through our fingers?
Well, technically, we did like retrospective of the.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I remember
that.
Okay.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to commit to anything, but yeah, that's kind of what we came.
No. I remember the conversation we had about that. Anyways.
Anyway, Kogi asked, look, there's no shame in seeking help. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that. Okay, it's okay.
All right. Let's see. We have Mutali in the comments. He's saying this movie was the first non-Marvel and DC superhero film I saw, and I loved it. Indeed.
We also have Theme Park Priest.
Yeah, Theme Park Priest is here. Indeed. Okay. Mutali also says the tie-in game for me was the PS2 game. Loved the dash racing, but didn't like the Violet stealth. Stealth in 2000s license games are like notoriously terrible. I remember they had that game based on the Hulk, like the Ang Lee Hulk, and the Hulk sections were good, but then you had stealth missions with Bruce Banner just sneaking around warehouses, and I'm like, what Metal Gear Solid ripoff ass shit is this?
Well,
so yeah,
and fun fact, like the Pizza Planet truck doesn't appear anywhere within this movie, but it does appear in the video game.
That's funny. I've always found that so weird and like. I don't know. I feel like Brad Bird probably did that as like an intentional troll move.
Well, yes.
Like, I'm just saying, like, out of any movie that you could easily work in a fucking truck, like the movie set in the big city starring all humans is the movie to do that, right?
Well, he did eventually do it in Incredibles too, so he paid.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, I feel like it was a troll move on his part.
Well, yes, and here's the thing. Initially, John Ratzenberger was not supposed to be in the movie as a troll move. Then he got say
he was supposed to be in the movie as Mac the truck. I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That thing, initially he was going to break the tradition, but then he said, "What? All the other movies have been successful. I should include that." Now, with the pizza plant truck, a lot of people always long speculate that it is hidden somewhere in that chase. But you have to imagine after 20 years, everyone's like freeze framed through that whole chase, and it can't be there, right?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I like to think of it as a phantom pizza plant trick, that it's there in that chase, but we're not going to acknowledge it. We're not going to look for it. It's
like
there.
it's like back in an alley somewhere during the chase.
Yeah, it's there. We're not seeing it, but it's there.
Right.
Like
Speaking of delivery,
we can head canon it, I guess.
Yeah. Anywho,
I mean, the people of Metroville have to order pizza from somewhere.
I think it's Municipal, technically, isn't it?
Well, like yeah, probably like Municipal. I think, yeah. Well, they still have to order pizza from somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into it. So, start the movie off with these really.
Uh-oh.
You there, Dragon?
Perfect.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, am I still here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good.
Are any of us really here, Dragon?
A little column A, a little column B. Moving on.
Have some of column A, have some of column B. Moving on.
All right. So the glory days. We start the movie off in the glory days with some fantastic and mundane interviews. What do you guys think?
I think it's maybe one of the best openings to any Pixar movie ever. It just sets the tone so well. I love the inverse on Bob and Helen's characters. With every part of the Buffalo thing, I think the best way that is implemented is just in this film setup and payoff. Like, this film has so many setups and payoffs, and I think, introducing Bob and Helen and their character traits, the fact that one wants to settle down, one doesn't, and that's going to get flipped. I think that's just top to bottom brilliant screenwriting.
And not to mention that it immediately, like, it's this big superhero movie, and it immediately humanized them by just sitting down and having an interview.
Like, everyone's expecting the scene that follows this to be the opening of the movie. The fact we open on that's a Brad Bird move right there.
Oh, totally.
So speaking of which, so here's what's great when you look back on it years later. So Mr. Incredible's last day is not just because we tie it in so well with he's the whole "I got time" thing. We're building to the wedding, which again is a mundane kind of a thing compared to the superhero that's going on. It's very Spider-Man kind of dilemma,
Oh yeah, I got time.
So what's great about this, it's not just his last day ultimately as we're going, sadly it's going, he doesn't know it's going to be his last day as Mr. Incredible. It kind of is, but it's also thematically it's kind of his last day of being a bachelor. So again, just given the midlife crisis that he's going to go through in this film, it is kind of nice looking back on it. Or this is like his last day as a bachelor, aka superhero.
Mm-hmm.
The glory days.
Yeah. So we check off all the boxes with all the superhero hallmarks in this opening. We have the car with the Incredible, which is amazing and it's awesome. I love how it suits him up in the car. I'm a vehicle, not. This is what I live for.
And all the while, it's like, oh yeah, I've got time.
Yep. We have the saves. He saves the cat in the tree.
He saves the cat and then immediately uses the tree to stop the police chase.
Yep. And he's going up against muggers and supervillains, and even has a sidekick, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Emphasis on the kind of.
Speaking of setup and payoff,
it's basically showing why he's earned the name Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm Incrediboy.
So our voice cast is also they're top notch here. Craig T. Nelson. Here's the thing. I think Holly Hunter kind of steals. Holly Hunter kind of steals the show a lot in this. But Craig T. Nelson though, what he does as Bob Parr is really. There's great subtlety to what he's doing, because I love just and great comedy too. Just the whole thing where he's picking up the fact that Buddy Pine's like, wait a minute, you remember that fan club, aren't you?
Buddy.
So Mr. Incredible, he's the embodiment. Here's what I kind of looking back on The Incredibles 20 years later. It feels like Mr. Incredible is the embodiment of a superhero whose kryptonite is mundanity and bureaucracy. Because as we see by the end of the sequence, it's going to be all the lawsuits and everything. And in his civilian life, it's all the bureaucracy that really cuts him down to his core. It's like all the perils of midlife. So that's really the only weakness truly to Mr. Incredible when you kind of look at it that way.
Sure.
Because we have the whole we're superheroes. What could happen? You know, it's kind of said in jest, which, by the way, comes back. We eat up that part of the buffalo later on, fashion into a sweater too. And so come all the lawsuits. By the way, a detail I never caught before, and it cracked me up to no end. If you look at the courtroom sketches, signed by Pete Zone. Those are Pete Zone sketches. He signed.
Oh,
them.
nice. Awesome.
If you freeze frame, you'll look and you'll see, like in the corner,
Great.
it's like the artist who was the actual artist. Oh, it's great.
That's a pretty neat detail.
Yeah. And Teddy Newton's playing the narrator. So the chatter telephone for Toy Story 3. He's the guy narrating like all the old school newsreel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. So all these lawsuits, which, by the way, tell me, when you were a kid, didn't it drive you crazy? Like, oh my God, poor Mr. Incredible. He's being sued by the Jumper. Like, you ruined my death.
Yeah.
I mean, I like, we're gonna get into it a lot, I'm sure, but like, one of the things about this movie is that it is like unabashedly adult in some spots. I mean, this has got to be, to this day, the most mature Pixar movie.
Yeah. I mean, even the second one kind of pushes that a little bit too.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I'll have to rewatch Incredibles 2. I'm not going to bitch about it because I told you guys I wouldn't. But I will say that if I had more time, I would have, because the ending of this movie definitely, like, you know, it is like, oh man, especially because, you know, Incredibles 2 is going to start off, you know, right where it picks up. You know, it picks up right where it left off anyways.
Anyway, like, so yeah, it's like, I will give you that point though. It's like, I mean, Ratatouille also touches upon some adult matters there too, but Incredibles definitely delves into it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, keep in mind, like, we have, like, obviously police chase with guns. We have bomb threats.
Well, we drop a lot of bodies.
Children are routinely being shot at with firearms in this movie.
And I'm saying, like, we have bombs, a train crash, people being shot with guns within the first 5 minutes.
Right, right.
It was important for Brad Bird is going to go on record. He said that it was important to kind of show, like, you know, like, playing by kind of superheroes in the Saturday morning cartoon kind of world, the expectations that people have. It's like, no, we got to show there are consequences, there are dangers, there are threats. Otherwise, why do we care about the characters if they're not in peril? If they're not, like, you know, really, what kind of message are you sending? Oh, they'll be fine.
Hence lines later. They will kill you if they get the chance.
Yep, we drop a lot of bodies in this. We don't see those bodies. We drop a lot of bodies. You know, think about all the superheroes that are dead in the NSA file sequence.
I mean, we straight up see Gazer Beam's corpse.
That's the thing, dead. So we kill off Syndrome pretty horrifically.
Mm-hmm.
No capes.
Yep. Okay, so
his death is freaking terrifying.
Oh, it is. So think of that. Like 10 minutes in the movie, we're already blown away with the most amazing film we've ever seen in our lives, and then we get into how can this film get any better? You'll cut to 15 years later at InsurAcare. Poor Bob. This is always what's so brilliant to me. This is like a Brad Bird decision. I love. I'm going to try to refrain from keep saying every 5 seconds, but still, this is just such a great move. Just the idea that we are. Poor Bob. He was a superhero. Now he's in a position where he's at an insurance company that says InsurAcare, and he's struggling to help the Mrs. Hogansons of the world because of his job. His job is designed to not help people. And that's the job he's stuck with.
Yeah, and as someone who has been dealing with some bureaucratic nonsense of my own lately, yeah, this definitely hits, especially as a grown-ass adult.
You're Bob.
And I'm Mrs. Hoganson, Dragon. I'm the guy being screwed over by the PR.
You're the little old lady.
Yep.
And not to mention the fact that his office, you know, he's a big guy, but they put his cubicle right next to the freaking pillar.
That is just that
right giant there pillar.
It's just like a masterstroke of visual storytelling, like an absolute masterstroke.
Do you know who came up with that idea?
Gee, I wonder if it's Brad Bird.
No.
Okay,
Ted
I'm sorry.
Blackman.
At this point, you're like the boy who cried Brad Bird in this podcast.
I'm trying to not do that, but no, that was Ted Blackman, who was worked on Batman the Animated Series. Ted Blackman was one of the story guys, or one of the might have been one of the designers on Batman the Animated Series. So anyway, because the movie does here, so the movie does because of they did this because of the limitations and kind of the getting into the uncharted territory. They went for the Art Deco 60s design to work with the limitation and also to kind of go off the kind of golden age superheroes and everything.
Isn't
and also
that
the
just
James...
like the perfect? I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. Just the 60s retro future aesthetic. As I simply can't imagine the Incredibles without it. It would be weird to not have that aesthetic. I mean, I feel like it's just as much a part of the identity of the franchise as superheroes
Although
are.
I can only imagine what it would have been like if it had gone Brad Bird's original 2D version.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like it would have worked.
I mean, it definitely would have worked. It's just hard to see it now.
Uh-huh.
I really want to like have somebody like do one of those like reanimated things that you see on YouTube all the time, but like animate this in like that kind of 2D style and see how it would look.
All right. So let's talk. Let's talk about Bob here for a minute. So again, I love Bob as a character. I love how we sympathize with his midlife crisis. He's
and he's also finding loopholes to help the customers the best he can.
Which was that scene was so endearing. I love that it's him outside of the costume being really cool, just in that moment where you see the look, and these are the little things. The animators were top notch on this production. It's the fact.
He's like, you see, I also can't tell you that you have to fill out this form and take it to this person.
But just there's great comedy, but there's also there's a real sweetness to it where you see this poor guy, you see the twinge of like regret when he looks at Mrs. Hoganson being like having the worst day of her life. You can see like the hero in him, just like, oh man, how can I not help this poor little old lady? Just that moment of weakness in him compassion is just.
We just saw him help an old lady earlier in the movie.
Exactly. So again, we're not wasting any part of it.
A very similarly designed old lady, by the way.
Don't be that guy.
Well, no, I'm not. Honestly, I wanted to bring it up specifically because I don't know how else to describe it other than I love Brad Bird, like the Brad Bird signature little people design, which we're going to get into with the boss as well.
Yeah,
I just feel like like Anton, or not Anton Ego, but Skinner and Ratatouille has that same design. I feel like it's a signature of the Brad Bird style, and I love it.
Oh yeah. All right. He's really. It was very unique for Pixar at the time to have a protagonist like Bob. It's a very non-commercial sell of a character. He used to be a superhero, and now he's a sad man selling insurance.
Like very few dads are like the main center of any kind of animated movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's a father. He's kind of borderline depressed. There's a lot.
A husband, father.
A husband who is legitimately in a rut in his marriage.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, that is not like we'll get into it. I love how on the rocks their marriage is at the beginning.
That was a really hard sell for Pixar, by the way. Because again, John Walker trying to like get a lot of this made, make a lot of this happen, but it's also like the uphill battle of like, hey, let's. I should tell you, like, Michael Eisner initially was I'm pretty sure it was Eisner. They didn't name him, but essentially they intimated it was Eisner. At the time, he would have been the guy in charge. Eisner
he would have still been around when this movie was in pre-production.
Eisner was a hard sell on this movie, and there's this great story where
that's surprising considering like the Breck Eisner effect. You would think this would be like Breck Eisner's wet dream. I'm just saying.
No, you're right, but there's this famous story I meant to drop in towards the top. It's actually important. So last year's basically convinced Brad to take the film to Pixar. They had to sell it to Eisner. And so it's him, John Walker, and John Lasseter in there, and basically they hear Eisner get off the elevator, and he's basically going like, it's a live action movie, so he's not convinced it's going to be. And already this is a bad omen. So he gets in the room, and essentially he's trying to lay out all the reasons to Brad Bird of all people, here's what animation can do. Here's what you do with here's basically trying to explain to him how the medium should go. And famously on the commentary, Brad Bird said, the next person who says the animation genre, I'm gonna punch that person.
Oh yeah, I remember
So,
that. I remember
John
that, yeah.
Walker is in the room, and he's going on record saying this. He was convinced that Brad Bird was going to punch Michael Eisner in the face during this meeting, and they were going to be that was going to be the end of their careers.
I mean, it's kind of surprising considering how Michael Eisner is a champion of animation in a way.
Well, again, they didn't name him, but all signs point to very likely it's Michael Eisner.
And if I understand it, this is like pretty much almost the movie that broke the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to Disney Pixar relations.
Yes, essentially, yes.
But basically one of the things that led to Eisner's ousting.
Yeah. So anyway, what happens is John Walker's like he's expecting Brad Bird's going to snap, he's going to punch this guy, and we're going to be goners.
God.
And Brad Bird just he basically turned to John Lasseter's on his left, basically. He's like, well, John. And John Lasseter saved his bacon, basically non-combatively saying, "Well, we hear your criticism, but we'd like to pursue the idea a little further, see if we can change your mind on it." And they did. And it just of course, Eisner at the end of everything, presumably Eisner, at the end of everything, allegedly Eisner, by the end of everything, he admits probably through some Breck Eisnering, maybe. I was wrong. You guys are right. This was a really good. This is a really good film, and again, maybe to the point of this is too good a film.
Oh God, Dragon! You know what I'm picturing now?
What are you picturing?
Oh God, you don't want to know.
Okay.
I'm picturing Breck Eisner and Michael Eisner in the fucking Jeffrey Dahmer meme.
Oh, Tiki,
Dad, you gotta have superheroes in Pixar, Dad.
Okay.
All right. I'm done.
Okay, anyway, I regret asking now. Okay, point being,
I love the superheroes, Dad.
Anyway, the point being, we're doing a lot of risky non-commercial things, including the marriage thing, which was they leaned heavier into it in the deleted scenes and everything. Originally, it was going to be a lot more literally Helen's going to come out and ask, "Are you having an affair?" And they kind of they curved that a little. It's there, and we obviously.
Just about in so many words.
The funny thing is, this whole thing kind of reminds me of Stan Lee and his pitching Spider-Man to his editors.
Stan, don't you know what a superhero is? You can't have a teenager as a...
And then after successful, it's that Spider-Man character we both love so much.
Exactly. Anyway, so speaking of Helen, let's talk about the family. So Helen, she's well adjusted to civilian life. She's the rock of the family, and being elastic, being the one who's stretching in all the directions. Which, as you can guess, power set's kind of defined by character, which was a good move.
It's like the dad expected to be strong. The mother needs to be stretched everywhere. The daughter
no Kogias. We are not referring to John Walker from Marvel, although I will admit every time the name gets brought up, that's the face I'm picturing.
The teenage girl wants to be invisible. The teenage girl wants to be invisible, and the young boy is full of energy.
Cut the budget, and he's using the shield.
Oh God!
Oh God!
I still, from behind the scenes, I still love the image of just Brad Bird drew a thought balloon, a thought balloon with a money sign in it, he held it over John Walker's head.
It's amazing
for it,
It's amazing that those two working relationship didn't end after this movie.
Well, especially considering Brad Bird's kind of bumped up.
Question: is John Walker related to Card Walker by any chance?
I don't think.
No, it'd be awesome.
I didn't think so either.
Come on,
I'm just walking in my head.
Anyway, it's funny though because I believe it's Allison's son. I'm blanking. It might have been Allison Smith, but it was Allison's. Not Allison Smith. That's the casting director. And on Iron Giant, he bumped up against his producer a lot on that, and they very much, you get a sense they weren't as chummy afterwards. Where I want to say he and Walker, they were still working on Ratatouille and stuff afterwards. I think.
I even brought him back for Incredibles 2. So.
Oh, there you go. So he did come. Look, that's because I forgot if he came back for Ratatouille, but point being, he stuck around. He came back at some point. Anyway, so we have Dash in the tax scene. This is great. We get
of course, coincidence? I think not.
So this is basically, in hindsight, this is Lou Romano's audition for Linguini.
Yeah.
They even have the same hair color.
Yep.
This might just fucking Pixar universe theory. No, I'm not actually serious about that.
I love.
It's actually an older Linguini. Ooh.
I laugh so hard at the way Lou Romano is the way we animate Bernie, just saying like, what, you don't see it? Like he's like
Bernie.
No, that's great, but still, it's the moment of like we see he's like he has like I have evidence, and he plays like it's like blink and you miss it kind of a thing. Like, wait, you don't see it?
Right
He's
there!
genuinely.
Right there. There's no tag in my chair, but when he moves, there's a tag. Coincidence? I think not.
It was such a great idea that we did not. Originally, we were going to see that scene, but not showing it plays so much better. Just showing
totally.
like the tape itself, just cutting to that. Anyway, so that little rat pig, he's smirking. You know, if we made The Incredibles, if we made The Incredibles today, we'd get Larry David to play that role now.
Oh God! Oh, perfect.
And it's amazing. It's amazing that this guy's a teacher, considering he goes around calling his students little rats.
Well, there's a education crisis right now, Jacob. We need teachers badly.
Yeah.
Facts.
Even in the 1960s, when this movie was set.
Absolutely, teacher strikes. We've seen Harold. We know what the chalk crisis was. Anyway, so here's it. I love that, like Bob Dash, he is frustrated that he has to suppress his talents, and this ties into the syndrome thing. This is really great. Like, how
they even kind of foreshadows what he says later. It's like, come on, Dash, everyone's special. Which is another way of saying nobody is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great
once again, just great setup and payoff there.
Yeah, so he has no, it's not right that he has no outlet for his powers, which again parallels potentially Buddy Pine in that had Buddy without basically without an outlet. We saw what happened with Buddy ultimately. So all this burning potential, and without a positive outlet, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, and that Buddy fundamentally misunderstood the concepts of being a superhero.
Exactly. So Violet, by the way, with Violet, I do love with with almost somewhat. Well, maybe not onomatopoeic. In Dash's case, yes. In Violet's case, it's a thematic name. Violet, again, I would like to think she was named Violet. You could look at it both ways, and both of them work. Either like an ultraviolet thing because of the invisibility, or because she made a force field that is the color violet.
Sure.
Which is, I think, kind of adorable. So she's, she has a great arc in this movie. She goes from the sullen teen to, the self-confident kind of hero, her inner superhero.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting that she's kind of basically has the same power set as the Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah.
It's so interesting that Brad Bird is identified as being with DC because of the Iron Giant, and yet this movie is so steeped in Marvel. It's crazy. All right, so should we talk about the dinner table?
I think we better.
Well, yeah. First we need to talk about the little kid who sees Bob lift his car.
Yeah,
I feel like that kid is like one of the perfect example of the comedy rule of threes.
It's even if the second instance isn't exactly meant to be funny.
I don't know, something amazing.
And he's like, me too, kid.
That's so sad.
I feel like that instance is more like I honestly feel like as an adult that line is just like straight up kind of profound.
Did you recognize that voice, Tiki?
What, the voice of the little kid?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
That's Squirt from Finding Nemo. You know who Squirt? Do you know who Squirt is?
Isn't that it?
I feel like I do, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But I feel like it is someone I know. Tell me.
It's Brad Bird's youngest son. I believe it's Nick Bird.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not someone I know then.
No.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was like one of an actor that we know, but I guess I was wrong about that. Anyways.
All right. So, we're at the dinner table. Bob's having a bad day. He's already crunching the car and everything, which
it's like what happened to the car?
So this is just wonderful. Again, the fantastic and the mundane at play here, the chaos. But kind of added like the chaos at a family dinner accentuated with superpowers.
She'd be eating it for a Tony loaf.
That's it. She jumps on him, and they're fighting and everything. You want me to intervene? I'm intervening.
He lists the
I'm
table.
intervening.
He lifts the table. How many dads do you think could actually wish they could lift the table the way Bob does?
Every father. Now here's what I love. I love in the lead up to that though, with the whole car thing. I love how excited Bob was living vicariously through Dash when he's cutting through the meat, but ultimately the table, get fix the table, get fix the car. Like he has the dad rants, which are very authentic, but he also just there's a great depth to the character where again he's excited that his son was able to. Bob's so desperate for any excitement. He's just like, oh my god, my son was able to use his powers and he got away with it, and I used to do that sort of thing. It's a great subtlety there. I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then he's like, and then also the important thing is he noticed this man, he's missing Gazer beam. Another part of the buffalo.
Yep. It's like you could have almost an adamantium kind of murder, adamantium kind of murder montage with all these buffalo bones in this film.
Oh God.
Okay, so let's talk about the coolest character in this film.
Oh yes, of course, the one and only Frozone.
Yeah.
My only thing with Frozone, he's a wonderful character. I just wish that through both movies he had a little bit more screen time and a little bit more, relevance to the plot. Because every time he does show up, it's he really pops.
It's even in the beginning, it's like, shouldn't you be getting ready?
I got time.
Even he's gliding across the sky with his ice powers and grabs onto a passing helicopter.
I just even though it's a little Frozone still goes a long way, and that
that's true.
All the scenes made an impact, and even with that though, I absolutely buy and just get the years and history of the friendship between these two and the conversation they have in that car.
It's like they're partners in. Well, I was about to say partners in crime, but that wouldn't make sense.
And
They're partners.
It feels a
partners
little Captain Falcon-esque, a little bit,
Oh yeah, and they're good friends. They like to hang out every Wednesday and go bowling.
But here's bowling in quotes, because that's bowling.
I was literally doing air quotes when I said that.
Oh,
you know what? Let's change it up.
Let's actually go bowling. and I love the little conversation they had, in the car. It's like here I am. He has me dead to rights. And do what he does? He starts monologuing,
and this is known quantity of the villains always monologuing.
Shut up, pay off.
Yep.
Oh yeah. You sly dog! You got me monologuing.
All right, so great transition too of just there's a fire and it's close. Yeah, baby. People in danger.
People are gonna burn to death if we don't help. Yay!
So
one thing that always stood out to me with the fire is that I think it's so funny how both this and Spider-Man 2 have very prominent fire sequences.
Oh yeah, burning buildings.
And I can imagine that this was probably hard on.
It was all the rage in 04, Tiki.
Oh
yeah. I can imagine that this was probably hard on the animators too, all the fire and smoke.
Sure. Yep. So again, I live for illogical logic in Pixar films. So this moment of what do you mean you're out of ice? There is no moisture in the air. What about you? You run out of muscle? This is a great argument.
I just love how it's like two co-workers just figuring out how to get a job done.
Yep, and then of course it's just this great timing too. Just they crash the building. It's high, fist bump. Okay, we're good. And then gets up.
And it's a jewelry store.
While they're wearing masks, it's oh god.
We look like incompetent bad guys.
Here's the thing. This is the thing. Even with the whole Mr. Incredible and Pals commentary, Frozone's big pet peeve is when he looks incompetent or when he looks uncool. That's the thing that really gets under his skin. So it's less the fact they look like crooks; they look like incompetent bad guys.
Well, at least here his mouth isn't synchrovoxed.
Why does everybody got lady lips?
Oh God!
He just said Pete Docter has lady lips.
Oh God! Did Pete Docter actually do the synchrovox?
Yeah, he's Bob.
he did the lip modeling.
Yeah, and the voice. He's the voice and the lip model for Bob.
Oh god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Also, Pete Docter, amongst all the other like anime, again, all the scratch and foley guys, they did the scratch and foley for a lot of like the oofs and ahs, and also kind of the walla for a lot of the background characters. Like the cop that says "freeze," that's Brad Bird.
It's like I know, freeze.
God, such a cool.
Which, by the way, like in retrospect, man, it fucking shut. Like I did not. I guess I'm sure I did remember it, but like it really took me aback the fact that like that bullet is going out of the goddamn gun and a black man.
Yeah.
Like that is like such a bold choice for Pixar.
All because he was taking a drink of water too.
Well, he started shooting after he moved his hands.
That's true, but still, I mean, he had no gun clearly. But yes, well, again, maybe he freaked out.
Oh, I mean, like, I mean, talk about a moment that just like, like I feel like that moment, like almost like I don't even think Brad Bird intended for that moment.
No, it's not intentional. What's great about that though is it very much feels like when you get Sam Jackson for the role for it, deep down is like that's a Tarantino scene in a Pixar film right there.
Oh, totally,
That's great.
Totally, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay,
if Tarantino did a superhero movie, it would be like there would be a scene like that.
Dude, I don't want to see Tarantino's superhero movie.
There's only one superhero movie I want Tarantino. We all would like Tarantino to make. Luke Cage.
It's facts. Yeah. No, that's true.
That's the only one he wants to do, and I think we should let him.
I think fucking Disney should let him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, let's just say if we're gonna reintroduce Luke Cage,
Wizard of Oz for some reason, so he has some sort of connection to the company.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so again, with plot wise here, it's kind of great that with we have Mirage kind of surveilling things, and I love that on the rewatch. It's like Mirage didn't know that Bob was there. She had no idea. She just kind of lucked into putting the pieces together. Like, oh God. This is my boss's Christmas come early, this guy.
They're originally scouting for Frozone.
Yeah.
Okay, I honestly feel like I almost kind of feel like that's a little bit of a plot hole. Like the one thing that's bothered me about this movie is like why is it Syndrome like zeroed in on Mr. Incredible?
Well, because they're in hiding. He doesn't know where he is.
No. I get that, but like you would think that but he's specifically tailing Frozone, so like I don't know. It just the fact that like you would think that all the resources that Syndrome had would specifically be going to finding Mr. Incredible and not just any random superhero.
Well, remember, he's building up to Mr. Incredible as well.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay.
My logic was that Syndrome, he's building up to it, but there's also like it's kind of like running the numbers of I keep basically bringing supers out of retirement. Basically, the idea is he's giving them all the same deal that he gave Bob, in which we'll give you money, you'll come here, you'll stop the Omnidroid, and rinse and repeat, and eventually he'll probably whittle down all the supers, and he'll eventually find Mr. Incredible. I think was the idea, and he's lucked into it.
Sure,
at that moment.
Sure, that checks in.
That's what I kind of figured, that he would just keep doing it until then. Mr. Incredible being like the big benchmark.
Maybe it's less like explained and not necessarily a plot hole.
Well, yeah, sure, not like plot hole may be the wrong choice of words on that one.
No, you're right.
Anyway. So, again, great realistic argument. I want to highlight this too, by the way, because I was refreshed on this.
I want bowling.
Yes.
I know that's not the argument you're talking about.
Bob and Helen's argument when they get home. It's very well animated. I believe it's a combination of Dave Mullen's animation, but the one I want to highlight is John Cars, who did Paperman. He did Helen's animation, the majority of Helen's animation in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. And especially during this argument, we do like the little head stretch at the end, where she, she's like, I love that within this argument, like Bob is obviously projecting. She calls him on it, like you're projecting, your other frustrations versus like addressing, your irresponsibility here. But Bob's not wrong about what he's saying here. That we should let Dash try out for sports, like because again, he's also projecting like his own inadequacies or his own kind of midlife crisis on the Dash, where he's going through what I'm going through. Let him do something about it.
And Dash is also much younger and is probably more emotionally damaging to him.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, let's see. So real quick, let's talk about. Sorry, I want to say too. I love they kind of talk to the kids. They're really good parents when the kids have heard them arguing. They're making sure like guys, we're on the same page or we're the same team. They've kind of de-escalated things.
It's like with the evil forces of pig-headedness. I was going to say evil.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so we got to talk about before we do anything here. We got to talk about Bob's firing. Okay, so Mr. Huff. We got to talk about Mr. Huff.
Wallace Shawn.
I mean, the great Wallace Shawn. He is just so impeccable. I honestly think this might be like he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I really think this might be his best voice acting role.
It's a great character, and again,
I mean, he's just like he's perfect. I mean, just the amount of snideness in his voice
and the height. Tiki, you got the height thing too.
We're supposed to devour people. What about our shareholders? Who's helping them out, huh?
They're penetrating the bureaucracy.
Oh my god.
He's very funny.
I think I've mentioned this before, but realizing that the guy who voiced the principal in a Goofy movie and Rex from Toy Story were the same person might have been the first time I realized that voice actors did multiple characters.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
So again, I love that Bob too is like Bob's in the right here, where yes, he's found a loophole, and then Huff is like he's very upset by this, but still, the fact that have I done something illegal? The law requires me to say no.
It's like, are we supposed to help people? Legally, I'm supposed to say no. Which is just now that's evil.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I heard someone like freeze frame that. If you freeze frame that, like the documents that are on Huff's desk, like if you look at them, they're really like it's a bunch of horrible corporate stuff that he's basically charging. Again, it's a gag, mind you, in terms of like we're really showing the insurer cares a terrible, hexscape of a place, where the idea is like you're paying for all your office equipment out of your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like stuff like that and parking and everything, basically saying the employees get charged for that. And I thought it's horrible.
It's like no wonder Bob's just so demoralized.
So Tony Facilli animated this grab and toss here so flawlessly, and I love the tension here where it's like Bob he sees like a guy getting mugged, and just this middle management guy just saying the moment he says he got away, he says good. The moment he says, you see the eyes like just get angry and they kind of like open up a little bit. There's like
that's the trigger point right there. Yeah.
And of course, like now close the door, and then you let go of the door, and you see it's the doorknob's crushed.
Yep, and
then at that point, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, you almost lost your job. There's the Tony Facilli grab. Tony Facilli's a big guy, so you can just sense like that. That's Tony Facilli putting himself on screen. There's like grabbing. Possibly with Brad Bird as Mr. Huff in that scene. We don't know. Just by the little napkin throwing him through three walls.
And at first it just frames it like it's just threw him through a single wall, but no, then it pans and like sees like four walls.
It is so awesome. Here's the thing: it's three walls. It would have been better if it was four, because then you could have said we broke the fourth wall.
And of course, what seals the deal is just Bob's.
God, love it. And I love Rick Dicker, wonderfully played by
Bud Lucky.
By Bud Lucky, sadly missed, but fondly remembered.
Who did the bound in short?
Did the bound in short, and originally they talked about Rick Dicker introducing bounding, which didn't happen, but would have been funny.
It's like I'm fired up. Oh, you think?
I love the bit with Rick Dicker where he offers, like, for old time's sake, like, look, maybe for old time's sake, I can relocate you and the family. And it's like, no, we just got moved in. So just telling him that he's on his own, but
so much nuance with this guy, and like he maybe has 5 minutes of screen time in the whole movie, and you get like a whole history between him and Bob.
I mean, he is very much, being this handler. He's in essence, he's kind of a combination of like, at that time he's pretty much Commissioner Gordon, but also a little bit of Phil Coulson in there, kind of a Coulson Gordon kind of thing,
like an old grizzled Coulson.
Yeah.
And heck, we almost get more of him in the Jack Attack short than we do here.
That is true.
Yeah.
All right, so Mirage. So again, plot-wise here, it's just great that Mirage offers him the chance to be Mr. Incredible again. He just got fired. He's in a position where he definitely needs the cash. he doesn't want to feel like a failure. Again, just having to go to his wife admitting that he got fired, and he's already kind of feeling like a lot of that in life. And I just love here's a detail I never caught in 20 years. I called it a rewatch. It really blew me away. Maybe I'm stupid for not realizing it. I don't know. I just really love this. Earlier on, we've always had that scene where he calls, Helen calls while he's with Mrs. Hoganson, and she says, we are officially moved in. That box says Dad's trophies. So the idea, the really sweet and cosmically ironic kind of thing we did here is that Helen set up his office for him. She unpacked the boxes and set up his little trophy room. So in a way, that's her.
I totally didn't catch that. Are you sure? I don't know about that, Dragon.
It's the box.
I hear what you're saying about what the box says, but I mean that trophy room. It feels like Bob's long-established man cave. Like I don't know.
Well, what I'm saying is we have the boxes.
It's a nice idea in theory for sure. I feel like that room is already pretty established in the house.
Admittedly, I am inferring. So I'm not saying this is like the gospel, but I am saying that maybe even if he started it, she supported him in building that room.
And I would love to have and it's a great room. It's like even him just looking around with the wistful music of like.
I mean, that's basically what we got from the teaser trailer. That and like, look at Bob, he's so fat.
And
he can't buckle the belt. Fat joke.
I actually noticed there's
maybe just a salad.
I noticed the small error in that scene, by the way.
Yeah.
Very small, literally small. One of Bob's like action figures is basically, I think it's either a bank or something. It's like him crashing through the wall. But it's like an action figure on a shelf right behind his right shoulder somewhere. The action figure doesn't have a mask on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's about as small of a detail as
yeah,
you can get.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like really good. I went back. Wait a minute. Did I just see what I saw? I saw like, yeah. What sense does that make? I don't know who he is.
I mean, this isn't like an error or anything, but
no.
I'm just saying. Just going back to like I love like all the little things in there, like the kids, like the kids drawing of him saving the bus,
mm-hmm.
and like the Life magazine.
Yep.
It's like just so much with no words.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little scene that absolutely gets you on Bob's side for what he's about to do here. And it's something very, you sympathize with this guy. He just wants to feel important again. He just wants to feel like, again, we've all like longed for our younger years,
Mm-hmm. And basically, it's a lot of what a lot of people go through, like the feeling of inadequacy, like wanting to prove something to yourself, especially if you've achieved something in the past.
Yeah. Okay. So the Omnidroid fight. So Bob's back in his element. He's
it's showtime.
Oh yeah. By the way, a lot of people go to Beetlejuice for Showtime or Bob Fosse. I still love Bob's use of Showtime. I don't know. It's just kind of nice.
It's just non-state. Like he gets out, stretches his belly button, shows you like Showtime.
All right, so we set up the defeat of the Omnidroid with the whole it can pierce its own hide thing, which again, Buffalo.
And it tears out he manages to make it tear its own power core.
Yep. Okay, so I want to talk. Oh yeah, go on.
I was just thinking, of course, gotta love Syndrome's lair with the
volcano,
with the magma, with the lava fall being spread apart.
Which later on we don't have to dwell on it later, but it's the fact that we had that great tense sequence where Mr. Crab was sneaking into the lair and you had like the lava closing in around him. And it's so tense.
It is, and it's awesome. I mean, let's just face it. Like we would all love to have a lair like that.
So I want to talk about my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah.
Life's incredible again. It's always been my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. I honestly feel like I'm pretty much with you. It's like it's just frame by frame, just a perfect montage.
AKA the training.
Chiquino score at its best.
It's like Bob like finding basically rekindling the spark in his marriage, playing with his kids, like even like getting like throwing Dash's football.
Yep, which sets up the go long thing in the third act. And again, we are we're seeing things we don't usually see in Pixar. It's kind of the adult nature of it. We have a married couple that are they're physical with each other. They're
It's like the pinching.
the pinching and like she's dragging him back inside when he's trying to leave.
Yep. It's like she wants. It's like she's loving the new Mr. Incredible.
It's a wonderfully visually conveyed montage of family life, Bob getting in shape, and this is the life he imagined for himself at the start of the film. When he imagined family life, he imagined this where he could be, in a sense, he could be a super without shame.
And and I'm just like the mundane, picking up mundanity, like his weights, trains.
That's training for you.
Yep. Like he's literally like bench pressing trains, like bits of like train cars.
Yeah.
It's like do you now that's like one day like do you even lift, bro?
Okay. Okay. So Bob needs to repair his suit for. He needs to repair his suit, and he can go to no other place than visiting Edna Mode, who is the breakout character of the film, played by, of course,
Brad Bird himself.
Yeah. And
of course with the iconic line, "My God, you've gotten fat." And this is after he's lost weight too.
Yeah. It does make me wonder if perhaps that was initially envisioned a little earlier, and then they just kind of like, no, we'll keep it where it's at. It kind of flows better this way.
It's still funny regardless.
Yeah, but the thing, he's still kind of he can only thin out so much. And if you look, even when he's in shape, you compare him now to when he was at the opening of the movie. It's still he was a lot thinner in the glory days.
He still has a bit of a dad bod here.
That's what I'm saying. But it's a toned dad bod now.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's Edna's fantastic. Just she's basically Q from Bond, from the James Bond films. She's combined with Edith Head. She's nicely paralleled to Bob, who was also kind of bored in kind of like the retired life. She's I used to design for gods.
And let's just say I love the statue she has with like. Funny enough, it has a cape waterfall.
Mm-hmm. We have a fun call out of the of the capes. It's like no capes, and we see now. I love this. So on the DVD bonus features, we have the files and all these dead supers. By the way, both dead from their capes and dead.
I
from
remember
syndrome.
that. Yeah.
The NSA, the National Super. I think it's the National Super Agency. I think is what they call it. Anyway, so. And then we have audio interviews on some of them, so we painted some characterization for them. It's amazing the thought that went into the supplemental stuff. But yeah, it's nice to see E is loyal to her clients and loves a challenge. So that's why she does this.
And she's basically like, well, basically he's like wants to. She's basically trying to get him to force him to have her design a new suit.
Like this is the wonderful character trait of Edna, where she's very much saying, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly." Okay, fine.
It's like you might as well ask now, darling. I'm too busy. Might as well ask me now what I'm still saying. It's like she's desperately wanting to make a new suit.
Yeah.
All right, so that bureaucratic nonsense I mentioned earlier?
Yes.
I got to go deal with it.
Don't throw him through a wall.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Jacob, you can run the stream, right? You're logged in?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. All right. Yeah, I'm out of here, guys.
Yeah.
The Omnidroid got him, folks. I'm sorry.
Kronos.
Yep.
But Edna's great. It's like, Edna, it's just a patch-up job. I'm retired, as am I, darling. But here we are.
So, fun fact that the tear in the suit actually was one of the hardest shots in the entire film, and the animators they were panic over it. It was kind of like the trash bags in Toy Story 3. There's always that kind of that. Here's the thing: Incredibles is like the exemption to this. There's an adage in Pixar called Yeti's Cave. This was indoctrinated from Monsters Inc. Basically, there's one sequence in every Pixar film, at least at a minimum. There's one sequence in every Pixar film that is like impossible hurdle. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily it, but it's adjacent to that, where they kind of really reboard, and they try working solutions out, and eventually they'll figure it out. But it's going to take forever to get it just right. It's Yeti's Cave here. It's in Up. It's like like Muntz's introduction. It's a lot of stuff. So here, it's kind of a lot of technical hurdles all throughout it, more than it is just one specific story thing. The plane may have been Yeti's cave, kind of, but there's a lot of
I mean, not to. I mean, it's putting like fingers through fabric. I mean, fabric's already hard enough to work with.
Yeah. And the joke was, can't we, like the TDs, the technical designers would like say, can we just describe? Can we just close up on Bob and he just describing what it's like, you feeling the fabric, like putting his hand through it, like that was a joke. Can't he just describe like he's moving his hand through? Can't we do like an audio description thing?
And it's like, no.
Yeah. All right.
Brad Bird really put the Pixar animators through the ringer.
Here's a fun Spider-Verse connect. The word is Lily Tomlin was originally supposed to be Edna.
Yes, but nobody could get them. But nobody could get like the voice that Brad wanted. It's like, so basically one of them was like, well, why don't you just do it yourself?
It's kind of like a vague, kind of like it's kind of a combination of a little German, little Japanese. It's a little,
And then they're like, why don't you just do it yourself then, Brad? And so he did.
But again, as all the Pixar greats, we've kind of worked them into the movies in iconic roles. Joe Ranft as Heimlich the Caterpillar and Wheezy the Squeeze Toy Penguin, etc.
Like,
even with some Brad Bird related examples, Lou Romano and Pete Zone.
Pete Zone is still with Pixar today.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so he's kind of evolved from being just one of Brad's guys into being his own guy in his own right.
Absolutely, yeah.
So way to go.
All right, so let's go to Nomanistan, which apparently is the name of Syndrome's island.
It's like, oh yeah, it's a great island.
By the way, in the Blu-ray release, they kind of did some fun supplemental stuff, The Incredibles. So like they did this little headcanon, well, not headcanon, they canonized it, where apparently after the events of The Incredibles, I guess the government, they basically turned Syndrome's Island into a vacation spot, and they reprogrammed the Omnidroids to be servants.
Oh yeah, just like it's like, oh, the things that almost destroyed the city. Here, let's just have them be servants for a location for robotic servants for a vacation destination.
You should have you seen any of that?
I don't have the Blu-ray.
Well, you got to look into that, man.
Like I have the DVD somewhere, but I
know. But even so, look into the Nomanistan stuff. It's also kind of fun. It's not, I wouldn't say get the stuff just for Nomanistan. I would say get it for the filmmaker's reflection, but you can find that on YouTube if you want.
I mean, like I said, I don't know where the Blu-ray is. Where the DVD is, if I can find the Blu-ray somewhere, I would definitely get it because I love this movie.
Oh yeah. There's probably Amazon, Jacob. But anyway.
I know there's Amazon, but I like to find these things in the wild first.
Find them in the wild.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I find them in stores.
Yes, but okay. Anyway, so point being, I've always loved this detail. So when Bob gets there, he gets in the mass down, he goes to this conference room. It amuses me to no end that Bob takes like the chair second to the last in the room, like not the end of the table, not like the last chair, like the second to last chair. Of all the chairs he could take, just kind of waiting there, and then, well, lo and behold, there's there's the Omnidroid. I think it's the Mark 9, maybe.
Yeah, but like the previous Omnidroid was able to hold it, like he was able to hold his own against it. This one pretty much has him dead to rights in seconds.
Instantly. So we meet Syndrome. Jason Lee.
Syndrome!
So much. Yep.
Yeah.
So the origin of Syndrome. You remember the origin of Syndrome, right?
You mean like how he was originally created, right? You mean for like in the original phases for the movie, right?
Yeah. So folks,
like in the original version of the story, in the original versions, he was like initially just the villain that like attacked like the Incredibles household as a baby, as like after Violet was born, like he was basically the starter villain, but then he was killed or whatever, and then he would be moved on to another villain for the movie.
Yeah, originally they had a villain called, I believe, Xerix, and he was just going to be kind of. It wasn't like he was more of a Bond villain than he was super villain. Frankly, it wasn't like wearing a costume or anything. He was kind of.
Which they did use Xeric in the comics, I understand.
Yes. So, Originally, yeah, he was going to be our main present day antagonist, possibly kind of some Doctor Doom similarities from what I hear, but we don't really know much about Zarek aside from the comic. But yeah, so Syndrome was basically initially things started. Jacob pretty much walked you through it. Just the one thing I do want to highlight though is that the film originally we didn't start with the glory days. We started with just them in civilian life, which
and one I do remember the one thing where it's like specifically what led to that was like the barbecue scene where where Bob was like chopping things with like the cleaver, and he accidentally went over his hands, like
which is invulnerable, so no blood or anything. But everyone's like, "Oh god, they think he's cut his fingers off."
And then he like squirts ketchup. I was like ah!
I just love it when he's like ah, and he's motioning with his head, "Come over here, honey." Ah. So again, this the mundanity of like this opening was fantastic, but again, it also kind of uses the same beats of the opening we have in the film today, where it's like we have our mundane opening, and then we have our super heroic thing where we have like a battle inside the house, and like Syndrome using the 0-point energy, using it as a battering ram in his own house. It's a really tense, scary scene.
Where he's attacking newborn Violet as a baby.
Yeah. So all that, so the parents are helpless, being trailed down the hallway, just wonderful stuff. And again, it's Brad Bird, by the way, who again, Syndrome, unbeknownst to him until it was too late in the production, was modeled after. A lot of the characters are incidentally patterned off Brad Bird, like pretty much everyone. Obviously, we have Edna Moe is more not designed by like Brad, but has his design standpoint, his voice. Bob is Brad. He also did the scratch for him. Syndrome. Again, Syndrome, I would argue, came alive because of Brad Bird, because everyone loved him so much in the reels. I think because of Brad Bird's energy in the performance, which is very close to what Jason Lee did.
And so they upgraded to the main villain.
Yeah, and then we have like a little bit of Dash, a little bit of Jack. They all look a little like Brad at different points in his life. Anyway.
I'm sure Brad was flattered that Syndrome was modeled after him.
There's this great story where basically he's like he was reviewing the character model when he kind of whispered they kind of like said offhandedly, "I know you're doing, by the way," just to the animators, like, "Yeah, it's too late to change it, but I know you're doing."
It's like we can't change the character models now.
Yep, which they did with Glee. Made their boss the bad guy. It's funny. Anyway, so Syndrome as a character, again, he has stay power. Everyone loves him, and for so many good reasons. He's about to kill Mr. Incredible, but he instantly monologues and gloats instead of doing so.
He's bigger.
He's better. Is it too much for Mr. Incredible?
And then, of course,
such an entrance.
And then, as we mentioned earlier, like, you sly dog, you got me monologuing.
So I love Syndrome's gadgetry and his weapons. I love that they are basically upgraded. Like we saw the prototypes in the opening with Incrediboy, and we're now seeing,
you're a gadget nut.
Yes, I am. We're seeing basically the Apple version of it. We have the 0-point energy, which the name is a real thing. I forget I don't think 0-point energy actually works like this, but I think it's just the name is real. It's like it's a thing, but it's not exactly this.
It's like vaguely like within the same ballpark, from what I understand.
Yeah, so we have that. We have like the rocket boots, and I love like the build here. My favorite detail with the gadgetry is that he has everything built into the gauntlets. Like the remote's built into the gauntlets, so it's a 0-point energy. Buffalo. Yep. And the little explosive that's in the shape of an eye. Which, again, saving something special for him, I have to imagine, is an eye for spite.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, the missile later on has like an S built into it, so he's branding these things. You can't have a B. You can't have a BS on there, Jacob.
Like I was going to walk around with it, but you know what? I can't go with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Syndrome. He's like probably one of the top Pixar villains anyway.
Oh, he's the most entertaining.
Oh yeah,
because he's a big fanboy. It's like the idea of what if the comic book fans, with the
and also fanboy.
Yeah, and fanboys like what if fanboy turned evil? And again, with what I love
He basically is what if fanboy turned evil, and was also a technological genius.
Basically, he's a modern day fanboy. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I love that. I love the detail that it's Bob. The way Bob treated Buddy back in the day is not the way he would have treated him after being a parent. And I love that distinct. It's a subtlety, and it's kind of like it's inferred, but it's like, you know.
But he also does. But Buddy or Syndrome doesn't understand that he was just doing it out for Buddy's concern.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Bob could have let him down a little more gently, but you know the fact that he didn't do that. You know, then because again he wasn't a parent, he didn't really see the ramifications of that. He was very much, you know, he was a bachelor.
He's always like, listen, and tell his mom what he's been doing.
Yeah, that was the real crime.
We never actually see Syndrome's mother.
They probably killed her. No, I have no idea. Anyway,
who knows? Maybe she'll be the main villain of Incredibles 3.
No, maybe.
It's like, you killed my son.
Well, technically, the cape did.
It's just like, I don't care. You threw the car at him.
Well, technically, my car was a plot hole. No, actually, there seriously is the car is actually. Jacob, I love this movie. I didn't. Jacob, I swear, I didn't catch it until the 20-year viewing on this. I realized that car actually shouldn't be there.
What do you mean?
Think about it, okay? He's driving. We see him leave to, you know, presumably like an airport or an airstrip somewhere, where he then gets on the plane with the mimosas and everything, heading to No Manistan. So we see him drive that car away.
Yeah, you're right.
So there is no way that car should be there.
But you know what they say, Dragon.
We don't care. I know you're absolutely right. We don't. I'm just saying. I never caught that in 20 years. Like, oh my god, I found like a divot in the car. So
what if there's actually an explanation there?
The only explanation is that Syndrome has people that would offer to drive the car back. I guess that's the only logic. Otherwise, it's like, you know, that Mirage has like a car service for him. But even so, it's like he's gonna need to get back home somehow. Why would he not just leave it there?
Unless he just threw some random person's car.
No, that's his car.
I know, but I'm just saying that's the only other explanation.
Yeah,
another person's car with the same exact color and shape of.
It was a popular model that year.
Yes.
Okay,
anyway, we'll get to that whole climax later and how terrifying it is.
All right, so Bob, they also have the awesome scanner that Syndrome has also built into the gauntlet.
It's like he has the explosive go after. He finds Gazer Beam's corpse.
So Brad Bird has a mastery over momentum where Bob narrowly escapes being blown up. And the moment he gets into that cave, he looks up and we see Gazer Beam's skull, and they have like the jump scare moment.
It's like which is oddly enough not one of the scariest scenes in the movie.
Hey Jacob,
yeah?
Do you remember what Pixar film we worked Gazer Beam's corpse into as an Easter egg, his skull into specifically?
No.
Up.
Really?
Yeah, in Muntz's collection, Gazer Beam's skull is in there.
What do you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of disturbing, actually.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
So apparently he died in South America, and Muntz found him. We thought Syndrome killed him, but it was actually Muntz.
Well, I'm going to argue this. Maybe Nemanistan is close to South America.
Well, there you go.
On the way there, maybe he stopped by, and again, circa the 60s. So, you know, again, he swung by.
And he found Gazer Beam's corpse with the skull, and he's like, I could keep this in my collection. But anyway,
anyway. So
yeah, it's like so Mr. Incredible gets the bright idea to hide behind the corpse.
Hiding, you, sir, truly are Mr. Incredible. Hiding behind the bones of another super? I'm still geeking out about it.
Then you had to ruin the ride. Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? He's this utter fanboy still in awe of his childhood hero, you know, that he's now trying to kill.
But it's like he still wants to kill him, but that doesn't mean he can't be in awe. It's like it kind of reminds him why he loved Mr. Incredible in the first place.
I think fundamentally, maybe subconsciously. I think subconsciously the reason we love Syndrome the way we do is he has kind of Joker energy about him. Where again, Joker does have we love villains that have a fondness or like have like layers to them, not just purely must. There's nothing wrong with mustache twirly evil, but it's the fact you have a villain who can be evil but also really enjoy it. Enjoy it and be kind of like be a little friendly or cordial.
I mean, he manages to both be a villain that has like a reason for being evil and all, and he's the rare villain that you know what I'm trying to say. Right? He's the rare villain that manages to balance both the one who has a reason to be doing what he does, and also evil for just being evil.
Yep. Code Geass Anime Fam says Syndrome reminds me of Control Freak, and yeah, there is a lot of Control Freak in Syndrome. It feels like.
I mean, kind of have a similar design, especially with the hair.
That's the thing. I mean, in terms of it's kind of a coincidence production-wise, but it's cool though.
Yep. So yeah, it's basically this is what happens if fanboys become evil geniuses.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
All right, so Helen's smart. She visits Edna ultimately after she kind of sees
after she finds the mysterious hair on Bob's repaired costume.
Yep.
And the only one who could repair his costume is Edna. But Edna just thinks that she's there to see the other costumes.
Yep, and this is great. Again, the fact that Helen does have a friendship with Edna, but doesn't visit her often. Edna's loves Elastigirl, and just like come over. I just love Edna's kind of lonely, and she just likes getting in touch with her old friends.
And then listing all the people, like it's bulletproof and heat resistant up to 10,000 degrees, and machine washable, darling. That's a new feature. It's like what were the old ones like dry clean only?
Yeah.
I just love that. That's like one of my favorite Edna lines. Oh, like Edna mode and guest. Like one of my, it's like probably like my favorite line in that scene is a machine washable, darling. That's a new feature.
So as we were kind of teeing up earlier, so marital issues in a Pixar film, took the right balance as they get it there, and just having like this. Like Bob's keeping a secret, and we don't spell out explicitly it's marital discourse, but it definitely to her we see how Helen's reacting to it.
And Violet even references it later on. It's like Mom and Dad's marriage could be at stake.
I mean, bad guy wants to ruin Mom and Dad's marriage.
Like, well, to be fair, he's too young; he wouldn't really understand the nuances of that.
Well, yeah,
but yeah. But Elastigirl's interactions with Edna.
Yeah, they had using originally some of the earlier versions of the film. They really leaned heavy into the potential adultery thing. Like Helen had like a nightmare where like Bob was being worshipped as Mr. Incredible by like supermodels, and she was like the old maid, like doing the laundry.
Oh God!
And this was like after. See, originally the reason for that was originally she confronted Bob about the hair directly, and they kind of realized the scene wasn't really playing. It was a well acted, it was a well staged and crafted scene. I want to be very clear about that. It was this thing of like Bob said, he basically took the suit to the cleaners, explaining it's white old lady hair on it, and then they had this really nice moment at the end of it where it's just like, I was feeling good about life, and I just wanted to, do you have to? And it was like a really human scene. But again, just doesn't really give them much to go from if like they're having that conversation versus Bob getting caught, compromisingly, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
And not only did he get caught, so we get to one of my other favorite scenes in the whole film. So very good, really great editing throughout all this. Where basically Edna's like tempting her, like hitting the homing beacon to find Bob and then fight for it, and you got to go remind him who you are, all that.
You're Elastigirl! My God, pull yourself together!
Just fight, win, and come back, darling. I love our little visit. So that's great. Not the same type of though. It's the scene right before that, where Bob is snuck in using the Kronos password.
Which would have happened if Syndrome didn't just write down his password.
Well, no, that was Gazer being Jacob.
I know. I was just a joke, right?
Oh, right. No, you're right. I'm sorry. That's good. I was thinking of tunnel vision right now.
It's like, I know Syndrome didn't write down his password. He wouldn't be that stupid.
Oh no, only the bad guy from Ready Player One.
He wrote down his like, obviously it was Gazer beams.
Yeah.
But Syndrome didn't check to see that either. So
That's true. Another villain cliche. He didn't look for the body.
oh yeah.
He assumed death. He scanned for it though. There was a search for a body, but he didn't do it himself though.
And which he even pointed out later, he geeked out about it.
Yeah.
It's like, that was amazing. You sir truly are Mr. Incredible.
So I love the cross cutting in this scene here. We see Bob he's looking to see if his family's been identified and everything. He's seeing all the dead supers, and it's a really emotional gut punch for him, seeing all these people that have been killed.
The intense music playing.
Yep. So again, the great Giacchino score.
It's like, so you don't know where he is? Would you like to find out? Like Edna's innocent in all this. Like she has no idea what she's about to do to Bob.
Yep. And then we hit on my favorite things, being the gadget nut that I am. I always in the theater I went nuts for this too. I love the goo balls. The goo balls.
Oh yeah. It's like like those things are interesting. They'd be terrifying to be caught in.
With the that's okay. So one with the illogical logic, this is how you would stop someone with super strength.
It's like basically slow them down to mobilize them.
Yes, but yeah, and again, you're being, it's like a blood pressure cuff kind of thing. It's like you're being kind of like inflated until you're probably unconscious. I'd imagine.
Basically being smothered and like deprived of oxygen.
Yeah. So I love it. But here's the thing: not just conceptually, I love that idea, but here's what got me in the theater, man. I was in awe of the editing in this scene, not just in the build-up, but just when he's running and we see the wide shot and we keep cutting the intensity of each goo ball hitting him like machine gun fire, and it's like, oh my god, it's like him charging up like right with all his strength. He's trying to get out of there, but he can't.
And the last thing we see is Mirage walking up to him.
That's a flawlessly done sequence.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's see. So, okay, let's talk about the standout sequence of the film.
Yeah.
The plane. We got to talk about the plane.
Like with where Helen decides to track Bob to this island, calls in a favor to her old friend Snug, who was originally going to be the pilot in the deleted scene, and would be the one who died when they got attacked with missiles.
Ultimately, they wanted Helen to have more autonomy. It was John Lasseter's suggestion to actually, he said, well, why can't we? Maybe Helen should be the pilot. He didn't say make Helen the pilot. He said, yeah, maybe we should consider that. And Brad Bird wanted death. It's like, no, someone has to die, and Helen can't die, obviously. And then basically it was this thing of this other thing of well, to really miss Snug and make the death count. And again, the Snug stuff was good. It was basically Snug also with the whole marital strife thing, offering his sympathy and old friend kind of wisdom. But ultimately, it's just adding more runtime because you have to establish why you missed the character. Why is Snug important? Why are we going to miss him when he's gone? We have to like the character for a few scenes, and that was the runtime they didn't have.
Instead, they just basically had her call him and then see a picture with him, and that's enough to establish their history.
Yeah, it's sometimes less is more, kids.
And it's like, do you have anything I could use? Let me think.
And it's a great idea that she knows how to fly a plane. And plus, here's what I like to think. No bearing for this, truly. I think it's just a coincidence, but in my headcanon, I would like to think maybe I know absolutely what. Sorry. I like to think we made Helen a pilot on some level, because Holly Hunter played a pilot in the very obscure Steven Spielberg movie Always. Again, we know for a fact that's not what went down, but in my heart of hearts,
I mean, they did take inspiration from her. That's why she talked out of the side of her mouth, because Helen Hunt's deaf in one ear.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they did draw upon that.
Maybe I'd like to think.
I'm not gonna say yes, but I'm not gonna say no.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it's like, so I can totally agree. I can totally see why they cut Snug out. I mean, it was an intense scene, but like his death ultimately would have felt wouldn't have been impactful in the movie itself.
Yep. Anyway, so this is again with the editing.
I mean,
in this
and
film.
quite frankly, it's more intense with just Helen, you know, Violet, and Dash on the plane.
So again, it's the intensity of the edit here, and it's the one we have the initial comedy of like the kids are on the plane, and we have Kari babysitting at home, and she has her own whole story going on there.
You left Jack alone?
No,
You didn't leave him alone. like
bickering and like talking over each other.
and they're like, "Oh no, we didn't leave it." Like, "Oh no."
Who's with them? Kari the babysitter, played by
Yep.
Brett Parker.
Yep. Like, not to mention, like, it's like. No, speaking of which, we should talk about the scene earlier where we have Helen packing.
Well, I mean, we don't want to talk about every scene, Jacob, but yeah, it's a good scene. It's
I
you
know,
know,
it's where Dash and Violet find out. It's like, do we all get cool outfits? The Dash,
Dash suits up.
the Dash likes. Oh, come on. I just love that scene.
No, I love the scene too. I want to talk about every scene, Jacob, but I'm trying not to.
I know.
It's great. I love,
The Dash likes.
I love her saying, "I've got a pack," just like shut up.
Yep. So yeah, then afterwards, like, they request permission to land, and then like Syndrome obviously is not having any of that.
Yep, and again, it's a really cruel thing that Syndrome's doing here. Whereas, so you do know that. I'm gonna miss him a little welcome here, and like, at every point, it's like he's begging him to stop. And it's 15 years too late.
It's like, you're too late. 15 years too late.
But again, the desperation on Bob, and also
And-
desperation on Helen, like with all the pilot lingo, as like again, things are getting so intense, and
especially with, like, there are children on board. He's like, no.
and just literally Bob is just like finding, oh my god, because of me, my whole family's coming here, and they're about to get blown out of the sky, and it's all my fault. And he said, again, just utterly, like white knuckling through this scene, and you're, oh my god, what the heck is going to happen? Are we going to blow up the plane? And we blow up the plane, and Violet, like, she's trying to make the forces. She's never made one so big, and she's like, I've never, she's making excuses during the things. It's a high stress situation, and she's unable to make it. The plane blows up. Mama Bear protects the cubs,
and she uses herself as a parachute and brings the kids down to the water. We're dead. We're dead. We survived, but we're dead.
We're not dead. No one's dying. And like, look out.
Yep.
Yep.
And of course, like, Dash finally gets to use his powers. Like, when Elastigirl turns herself into a makeshift boat, like, Violet sits in the boat, and then Dash is using his kicking very fast to propel themselves forward.
Yep.
Ingenious use of powers, ingenious use of the abilities, by the way.
And again, Helen being smart, but like instructing him how to do so.
Oh yeah, it's like, and then
Nice mother-daughter moment in the aftermath too. Just like her, like, she's not mad at Violet for not being able to do that, and it's
and she's proud of Dash for getting them to the island.
Yep, and again, you have like a little bit of like it's a very subtle twinge of it, but Violet feeling bad about herself in that scene too, and Dash is getting the praise there.
Yeah, and then that's why she starts practicing with the smoke and on the fire.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're on the island, which, by the way, I'd like to think the island setting period, kind of a nod to Johnny Quest. Brad Bird's love Johnny Quest.
I really love Elastigirl's stealth mission.
And again, we see, again, she's she's not as rusty as Bob was. I'm not saying that Bob was like bad when he came back, but I mean, we saw that, it's been a while, and Bob was getting back in the groove of things when he first took out the Android. Helen, it's a well-worn glove,
And of all the kind of characters that'd be good for stealth, I mean, Elastigirl would be it.
Yeah.
It's like she and especially like when she compresses herself against the wall with the train coming.
I love the door scene. The door scene's so funny. Just the idea, oh god, so she's trapped and has an inventive way out.
And Yeah, she just she continuously getting trapped indoors. She's like, ugh.
Yep.
And then the continuously reaching gets trapped again.
Yep. Probably worth, I guess, for posterity. Well, maybe I should pick another word. For we probably just should mention, we do have a moment. We have get the fantastic, the mundane. We have a moment where she's while she's so confident in what she's doing, she's a little unconfident in how she looks in her suit. But
she looks at herself in the mirror and she's like,
but again, I think the whole audience would go, she's a knockout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. Bob went through the same thing. He was like self-conscious too.
Well, to be fair, Bob, it was a little more like unavoidable. Where Bob was like they're pushing the button and like the gut's getting in the way when he's being launched out the tube.
I know, but they're both self-conscious about how they look.
True.
It's like, and
to be fair, she feels her suit better.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm not gonna deny that, Dragon.
Okay.
But can we just talk about the bloopers real quick?
Okay.
I mean, I just remember you remember the bloopers, right?
I know the bloopers. Yes.
The Incredible Blunders, I think they were called.
Yeah, the Incredibles. Of course, they kind of updated the the in-universe bloopers to be kind of more behind the scenes. Like here, all the rigmarole that goes into making the human characters in the Incredibles, and there's a lot of trial and error, mostly error.
Yeah, like models acting up, outfits not working properly, and of course one of my favorites, when she's doing in the movie when she's swinging back and forth between the railings. In the blooper, she just runs, actually smacks it to the pillar. But yeah, that's another thing that the bonus features had was just animation bloopers. It was amazing.
There's also this great thing where the animators had many takes and Bob knocking out the one guard.
We can talk about the bonus features of this movie could be an entire podcast in itself.
They could.
One of these days we should probably do that, but not right now.
Yep. All right. So, Bob, the way he snaps at Syndrome. Hey, I thought you worked alone anyway. So just Bob, he's lost his whole family. He tries to he would probably kill Syndrome in that moment, frankly.
But gets Mirage.
Gets Mirage instead, and he tries to parlay Mirage into a way of escaping.
And Syndrome doesn't fall for it. He's like, do it.
He calls his bluff. He says, yeah, go for it, kill her. I don't care. Seems a little. I love the line. Seems a little dark for you. Go ahead, give it a try.
But
it's a little Frank Miller for you, Bob, but give it a shot.
So he knows that Mr. Incredible wouldn't go through with it.
But that's the thing, though. Do you think how much of that do you think's not caring about Mirage's safety, or how much of that do you think he knows for a fact?
As we see later, Bob is willing to kill. We do see it a couple times later. He would have killed Mirage later if she didn't reveal that his family was alive.
He was still conflicted when he was holding her, though. I don't know.
I know, but he was closer to that point.
He was.
And remember, at that point, he also wasn't being restrained either.
True.
So yeah, that led to another problem, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that. So,
yeah.
Fact of the matter is, Bob is, he's poor Bob here again. I like to think that Syndrome does like Mirage, and but again, he's putting his fanboyism before her feelings. Is the fact that I know he's not going to do it. Come on, he's fine. He says this to her. I think he means it. But then again, Syndrome has made a lot of compromises to get here. He's killed a lot of supers. He's a murderer. So Mirage gets killed. Here's the thing: had Bob actually killed Mirage, I think he would have respected Mr. Incredible more. And I don't think he would have. Had Mirage gotten killed, I don't think he would have wept over her. So in that respect, there's a lot of callousness there. I think Mirage was right to turn on Syndrome the way she did.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that led to her betraying him in the first place, was the fact that he pretty much gambled her life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Bob's, Bob's sobbing. He's alone. He's like, I've outgrown you. You have nothing to lose, and you're just weak, and I've outgrown you. Syndrome leaves the room. Bob's at his low of lows moment.
And of
Meanwhile,
course, no, go on. Never mind. I was
going to transition to the 100-mile dash. What do you got?
I was getting a bit ahead of myself. I was going to say something else.
Okay.
I was going to reference a later scene until I realized, like, oh, wait a minute, that's not until later.
So, we're on the island. Helen's sneaking around. Meanwhile, the kids, they eventually end up battling some bad guys once the little bird. The bird goes off. Different bird.
It's like, and I love like Dash and Violet's conversation. Like they bicker out throughout the entire movie, but here they're actually they're real, very well written siblings. I mean, that's my thought anyway. But like, voice key incorrect.
Wait a second.
And then the bird go off. It's like run. Where? Not here.
So we have the 100-mile dash, which in part, according to Breber, is the main reason he wanted to do the film. He wanted to do this sequence. He wanted like the kid discovering his powers and just kind of, basically discovering how he could use his powers in the moment during an action sequence.
And one of the most awesome sequences in there. It's like he runs and he sees the water and is prepared to then the laugh he does when he realizes he's running on water.
I forget if Mark Andrews boarded this scene, but it would not surprise me if he did, because this feels like classic Mark Andrews stuff.
It's like that laugh that Dash does when he realizes he's like he's like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
Yep, he's getting away with punching guys.
And Dash actually ends up inadvertently killing 10 people.
Okay, to be fair, they're pursuing a small child.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's justified, Dragon. I'm just saying he technically ends up killing about 10 people. I mean, I'm not saying anything. I mean, they're
running for his life.
I mean, they're chasing after him in hovering blades, Dragon. Of course, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, he should let them live.
He's not actively murdering them, though.
I didn't say he was murdering them. I just said he resulted in their deaths.
Yep.
Look, Dragon, they deserve it. They're trying to kill a kid with hovering saw blades, of course.
Yeah.
Which is reference to they will kill you if they get the chance. And
there you go.
So like I said, I'm all for it. I don't feel bad for them.
All right.
And of course he even stands up for Violet when they find her. It's like, nobody hurts my sister.
Yeah. A little more chutzpah than that, but yes, that's what he says.
I know, but my voice is starting to get a bit sore doing all the
voices. Don't touch my sister. Yeah,
don't touch my sister.
Yeah, it's anyway, good bit, and they have the great combo move where Wile kind of midair can put them both in a bubble, and it's kind of hovering.
And he runs into like a bowling ball.
Yeah, so in a sense, they go bowling.
But before that, we have Helen looking for Bob.
Yeah, Mirage frees him, and he basically says the family's alive, and he's so relieved he's hugging Mirage at the wrong time.
As she comes in and sees what's going on.
Oh, this is incredible! And this bam punch right in the face.
Yep, it's like he thinks that she's the other woman.
Yep. How can I betray the perfect woman?
Basically, he's like, you're trying to pick a fight, but I'm just glad you're alive.
Again, I love that too. I love that. Again, we're not doing the thing where we're gonna have the whole we're not putting Bob in the doghouse for the duration, because there's a lot's going on right now. We don't have time to slow things to a crawl with that and have them do. We had the apology scene, but we don't do it we don't slow things down to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the parents get bowled over. Then we have a tease at our big Fantastic Four action sequence where they start to work together. The kids are seeing mom and dad in action, and then we stop it time out.
Like Dash whips up a sandstorm. Violet's finally mastering the force fields.
Yep.
She's got to mention that Violet gets 2 superpowers.
Oh yeah.
But it's like hold on. You married Elastigirl?
And got busy. The little move that he makes when he's busy,
which is a very adult joke.
Yes.
Oh, this is just too good. I just love Jason Lee. He's I just love as it performs that entire scene. It's like
I think that was improvised, by the way, because I think I'm just going off of like the deleted scene. He says, "And had a kid." So I think Jason Lee added the whole "and got busy."
it's not busy. It's busy.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is just too good.
Again, probably that might have been improv as well. It's just really funny.
I mean, it works. It works well. It's like, of course, he'd freak out about Mr. Incredible having a family with Elastigirl.
Just him fanboying out about that.
It's like he's just like geeking out about that.
So Syndrome's plan should not be underestimated. Syndrome's plan is really solid. It still holds up really well.
And basically undermining the concept of a superhero.
Yeah, and it's still to this day. Everyone lauds this movie not just as a great animated film, but a great superhero film. And with that in mind, it is it's just the fact that we have this really solid plot that would behoove any comic book to have. Just the idea that he's become the hero he's always dreamed of as a kid, falsely, but he's become the hero as far as the public is concerned. He will sell his technology to them to basically make superheroes obsolete.
And basically, he earlier implied that he got his money by selling this technology to countries who will pay through their nose to get respect.
Yep, and basically, in essence, he'll cause like a war, most likely, with that. Like he's arming both sides.
And if you think about it, and as people pointed, as I was pointed out too, quite a bit ago, it's like in the scene where he's like, "Fly home, buddy, I work alone." Obviously, like Mr. Incredible's also dealing with Bon Voyage,
yep.
But in Syndrome's recollection, they're just by themselves, and he's saying that.
Yeah.
It's like his mind is distorted. His mind kind of distorted the whole thing. I don't know if that means anything to you.
No, I mean that's definitely what he was focusing on. It's probably him recontextualizing a little bit to be harsher than it was. Him saying, "Fly home, buddy, I work alone."
It's like and it's like
he's a narcissist. That's the thing. He's not seeing at all anything wrong that he did. He's seeing himself as like as Robin. Like why are you rejecting me, Batman? We're a team.
Yeah. And so it's like he has the entire Incredible family captured. and of course it's like and once I go old and have my fun, I'm gonna sell his inventions so that everybody can be super. And once everybody's super, no one will be.
It's a great line.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's a solid plan. It's an excellent plan.
I mean, that's basically Syndrome's entire thesis right there.
Oh yeah.
Basically, have his time in the sun as a superhero, and then basically make sure that being a superhero is no longer special.
And it's the ultimate revenge plan for how Bob made him feel back in the day.
Oh yeah.
All right. So
and just the delivery of that line, "No one will be."
Yeah. Again, it shows the menace, and it's like because we're laughing a lot with Syndrome, but when we see that though, it's like, oh boy, there's this guy's definitely menacing.
Oh yeah. And then he prepares his plan to launch the Omni Droid to the city.
Yep. And while that's happening, the Incredibles, they kind of have their family therapy moment there, where Bob, Bob has a great, as I said before, Bob has a wonderful arc in this film where he kind of goes from kind of wanting to relive the glory days and the adventures, and he kind of realizes the real adventure is,
his family.
Yeah, is his family, and that's what he's been missing out on. Anyway, so
I'm just saying, like I remember the A113 reference in this movie.
Yes, we do. They're being held. That's where Bob's being held. Cell A113.
Except like floor A1, cell 13.
Yep.
Basically.
Also, it's a little subtle too. There's kind of another A113. That one's the actual A113, but where we see like an A and we see like a 13 where they're where the RV is.
Oh yeah, then they have their little family therapy, like Bob talking about like why he did what he did. All the while, nobody notices Violet escaping from the energy field.
Yep, which again, Syndrome didn't predict the kids, so that's how they be able to escape.
Yep, he didn't expect Mr. Incredible to get busy.
Nope.
But he still geeks out about it, though.
All right, so this was so we have the RV sequence. So they need a way to get back there. They can rocket there, but they don't really have. They're not non-droids. So they need so basically Helen.
Helen
Such a trooper that Elastigirl.
It's like, how are you doing, honey? Do I have to answer? And of course, like Dash is asking, like, are we there yet? We'll get there when we get there. Dragon, you there?
I know. Yeah, I'm here. I just love it when he says, "We'll get there when we get there."
Yeah, it's like, of course, like his mom's like holding an RV in place. His dad's driving it. It's like, are we there yet? It's a classic kid thing to do.
Yep. Seriously, I always like the best response to that, though. We'll get there, because he says it with like the superhero kind of ambiance. They're like, "We'll get there when we get there,"
and that's what parents always say too.
Yep.
Like, that's such a parent thing to say.
So again, kind of yet another representation of Fantastic and the Mundane. It's an RV ride to, it's an RV trip to the big battle.
And well, being RV strapped to a rocket.
Yes, and then but again, it's a high-speed chase without brakes, pretty much. It's just going there. It's but that'll take me downtown. No, we want to go downtown.
It's like, oh, I missed the exit.
And then the barrel roll kind of landing and like right into the parking spot.
And Dash is like, let's do that again.
All right, so
the big battle.
I love Bob. Pete's animated this too. This is Bob confessing that he's not strong enough to lose his family again, which is a really great cathartic moment for him.
Well, it's like I'm not strong enough. It's like what, is that another workout to you? I can't lose you again.
Just wonderfully animated. He's such a strong character yet so vulnerable in that moment.
I mean, I think about it, it's like him tapping. It's a different kind of strength. He's not talking about being physically strong.
Mm-hmm.
More like he's not emotionally strong enough to deal with it again.
Yes.
Which is a great like subtlety there. It's like he's physically strong, but like basically losing your family is an entirely different matter when it comes to mental strength.
And he's gotten a taste of what that feels like. He's gone through a real trauma there when he lost his family. So he definitely doesn't want to go through that again.
Yep. I can't lose you again. And speaking of the animation, let's talk about Craig T. Nelson's acting in that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is going to get still, but it's incredible voice acting.
Mm-hmm. And again, we call back the line, Buffalo Man.
We're superheroes. What's the worst that could happen?
Just a great callback. When they made their marriage vows and started this adventure to being put to the ultimate test here,
And then what's the worst that could happen? And then their kids start getting attacked.
Yep. So,
But we should also talk about like the reemergence of the superheroes, or in this case, Syndrome fighting the droid.
Yes, so the Omnidroid is self-learning. Essentially, it's the dangers of AI in 04. Even the artificial intelligence, the learning robot,
And
it knocks the remote out. It's like, wait a minute, that guy's a threat. He's controlling me. I'm going to take away his control over me.
And I still love how in the end credits they actually kind of credit like Lucasfilm for allowing them to use the word droids. Years before they would both be owned by the same company.
Yep.
Irony there, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so it knocked it, like, people are like wondering what kind of superhero, like, who's the superhero Syndrome is. And he's like, he's like doing basically being a superhero wrong. He's like flaunting, like showing off. He's like putting the citizens in danger. Pretty much
he catches like this big tanker truck and he like tosses it callously over his shoulder so it still blows up.
Yeah, it's like he basically, like, for being a huge fan of a superhero, he basically that's the classic, like, oh, it's like I can be a superhero, but then he has no idea of how to actually be one effectively.
So again, it also shows that he had no business being a superhero.
Oh yeah. Like, maybe with the right teacher he could have done it, but obviously
had Bob accepted. Do you think Bob could have molded him into something? But again, if superheroes are going to be outlawed like that very night, though, I mean, I think I don't think it would have worked out for Syndrome anyway to slice it, because he still would have, even if he accepted him.
I mean, there's a very possibility that he could have become like, if Mr. Incredible did take him in, he could have become drunk on the power or something like that.
I mean, it's a lot of
or it would have gone to his head.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs too. Or I mean, there's the what if of okay, so had he not jettisoned out of the car in the earlier scene, that means we wouldn't have had. And Bon Voyage is going to be there either way, and he wouldn't have taken the kid to see Bon Voyage, and
yeah.
So I don't know. It's unclear. The point being that these are questions we don't need to ask.
Could Bob have handled it better? Of course, but also Syndrome could have taken his rejection better, and not become a megalomaniacal supervillain. Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't really even, because again, we get the sense that Bob was very patient because he gave him all the autographs and everything he ever needed. So he was nice to this kid.
I mean,
he's on a schedule.
He was concerned for his safety, and then he had to get to his wedding.
The kids bothered him on his wedding day, and he's worried about the kids' safety. Bob's making valid points, and then the kids interfering in an active, an active foiling.
An active bomb threat too.
Well, yeah, that too.
Bomb.
By the way, I still love the bit where he catches that train. You see the winds right before the train hits him. Again, it's like taking the Christopher Reeve Superman train thing
I mean, just because he's nigh invulnerable doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't feel pain.
Exactly.
You may be able to stop a train. That doesn't mean it's not going to hurt.
Do you remember what Bon Voyage's original name was going to be?
Bon Mignon?
No, Bon Perignon.
Perignon, right.
The Dom Perignon people did not like it.
That's like they did not think it was a good idea.
And yet, the revenge.
Yeah.
Bon Voyage is in Ratatouille, so he ended up being kind of being French anyway.
And he actually speaks French.
Well, he is French. I'm saying we actually put him in the French movie, so it's kind of Dom Perignon adjacent. I don't know. Anyway.
Yes, I can understand Syndrome being upset for a while, but he really needs to get over what happened and become a better. Well, that's kind of the whole point. That's kind of the point. He didn't get over it. He was even after 15 years, he was still the emotionally immature Incrediboy that he once was.
Yep.
That's kind of the point.
Yep.
So the Incredibles start attacking the Omni droid.
So this is a very Fantastic Four kind of climax. This is essentially an equivalent. I know who we have at the end of this movie. This scene feels very kind of equivalent to Fantastic Four versus the Mole Man.
And let's not also mention somebody else is about to join the fray too.
Yeah, Frozone.
It's like, honey, where's my super suit?
Why do you need to know?
I need it. It's like, the city's in danger.
Our evening is in danger.
You tell me where my suit is, woman.
You tell me where my suit is, woman.
It's like, they're talking about the greater good.
Greater good? I am your wife. I'm the greatest good you're ever gonna get.
And he's just like, this woman.
just priceless. No, Syndrome's. Frozo's got a great apartment.
It is a nice apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine how much that cost. But I mean, yeah, look at that. It's like he even has like a fancy thing to bring up his suit.
Well, this is kind of funny too, because the intimation on the DVD behind the scenes features, with the Mr. Incredible and pals, is that Frozen did have marketing deals, so he presumably managed or had a manager or something, so he might have done okay for himself, and that's why he has that apartment.
I mean, it looks like a high rise too, so he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah,
and he's got a wife. I mean, we actually see like concept art of the wife, and I think in the sequel, but
yeah, that's the thing. In the sequel, they I forget if we actually saw it, but they were initially going to show her, and they decided not to, and they used her design for a superhero. It was a whole thing.
So honey, her name is literally Honey. I love that.
Yep. Okay, so.
Anyway. And it's like that's like the scene that almost everybody remembers from that movie, from this movie.
We have a lot of great teamwork. We're paying off everything. Like we see one with some great action beats. I love Helen using like her arms like a slingshot, throwing the manhole cover to take out the gun.
Yep. And we have gold. We have gold going long.
Yeah, going along with basically it's another family thing. It's a battle for the remote. So it's tossing. Everyone's fighting over the remote.
Yep.
So all this is great, then Frozen coming in. Also, I love that Frozen and Dash, have a rapport too, with the whole he shoots the water in the area because he likes it when it shatters, when he freezes it.
It's like, and then he's like, creates all the ice for Dash to help.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, so all that's great. Now, so we have the Giacchino score. Just again, it never for a moment does it not deliver in this film. Like every second of it.
I mean, this is like almost like, keep in mind, like outside like the accordion like that they used for Bon Voyage, basically the entire score is just brass.
That's what I'm saying. So I love like the brass kind of build up too, or the dun dun dun. It's almost like if you listen, it's kind of like a funerary march, and like, oh god, this is doom coming towards them right now.
Brad Bird originally wanted like one of the James Bond composer to do this movie, like, but I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
John Barry?
John Barry, yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So John Barry did do that, and even use like On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It was John Barry or Jerry. There's two people who did the Bond thing. There's John Barry and there's Jerry Goldsmith.
I think it was Jerry Goldsmith.
I think you're right too. I threw John Barry because John Barry I think did the Bond theme, and then Goldsmith did like the score for the Bond films.
It's like, yeah, I think, but whatever it is, I know he like wanted one of them to do the score for this, but they didn't want to imitate the previous work. And then obviously Brad Bird found Giacchino, and the rest is history.
Yep.
Obviously, this isn't Giacchino's first work. I think.
Brad Bird went with Giacchino in part because his original composer died after Iron Giant.
Oh yeah, and basically, I mean, Giacchino had done some work before them, like in games and stuff like that. But this was like basically oh yeah, this guy is basically a scoring legend.
So we have this build up. We have like the robot claw that came off, and this Bob basically, what are you waiting for? A closer target.
Like, press the button.
Yep. Anyway, so we time it just right, and basically it takes out its own heart and blows up. And we have Frank and Ollie Johnson saying that's basically giving chef's kiss to the movie.
And it's like, that's old school. There's no school like the old school.
Ah.
Like, gotta love Frank and Ollie.
Yeah, for their last appearance, man, that was something special to see them. Like,
I remember, like, they're the ones that, like, after like computer animation was written off, like, they're the ones that after they saw like the fact that their own principles that they helped create were being used in these computer animated movies, like, you did it.
And it's really sweet that they were in Brad Bird's feature debut, and they're in kind of like his peak filmmaking kind of I mean,
who were they in Iron Giant?
Yeah, they were the train conductors.
Oh yeah,
you know why they were the train conductors, right?
Because Walt Disney liked trains.
Well, yes, but also Ollie Johnson has like a train too. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's the thing, because I believe John Lasseter bought it from or something, or hooked him up with it somehow. Because Ollie Johnson has like an affinity for trains, and I think in his backyard or something, or maybe in conjunction with Walt's train, like he built the train. I think Ollie Johnson has like a full scale like part of a train somewhere. At least he had it, I think. And Lasseter bought it from him.
And think about like the fact that Walt loved trains is like one of the reasons why Disneyland exists. He just like he wanted his own giant train set.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, when I first watched it, obviously I wasn't familiar with Disney history as I am now. I had no idea that was the significance of those two old guys. But now that I do, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Yep.
Too bad he couldn't get like Milt Kahl in these movies.
Well, yes, I think his Milt Kahl was his mentor directly. So yeah.
But he did get to work with Frank and Ollie. So.
Yeah. Well, I think they were the last surviving Nine Old Men too. I think that was the big significance, because again, Nine Old Men were like those collectively were his mentor, and they brought him into the industry.
We wouldn't have this movie if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
I mean, without them to nurture Brad Bird into who he eventually became.
Yeah.
So, like, no school like the old school.
Yep.
classic. And of course, Syndrome sees that, like, he wakes up after being knocked out. He sees that he didn't get his moment in the sun. He's like, no.
So things are seemingly turning in the Super's favor. And then we have the reveal that Kari has a replacement sitter all of a sudden.
And of course, the family geeking out, like, not as cool as you running over water.
Very supportive, loving family. Bob, noticing Violet's hair is back. She's gonna a little less.
And he's like, it looks good on you.
Yeah.
He's like being supportive of both of his kids.
Yeah.
And of course, we have Helen listening to like the increasingly frantic calls from Kari.
Yep, and then we end up on the replacement sitter, and we pay using.
It's like I didn't call a replacement.
It's okay. So again, she was going to. Then the whole plane stuff happened. So yeah.
And I didn't call a replacement. And then they rush into that, and then suddenly, it's like shh. The baby's sleeping.
Speaking of geeking out, I love the camera move in that scene where we follow them, and just the way we follow them into the house like that will still just gobsmacks me. That is so good.
Like, cinematography is an underrated aspect of computer animated movies.
Now, I'm not saying we didn't have good cinematography in the previous Pixar films up to this point, but this is where we really brought a real kind of a feature mentality, and we really exploded we did a lot of really interesting things with the camera. Like Brad Burroughs said, I'm not pointing my camera there, so it's we see that, that. I
mean, he really takes advantage of the three-dimensional space.
Absolutely. So again, in the spirit of using every part of the buffalo and just kind of Pixar, there's a philosophy that they never really had a name for it, but they had done that before. They used a lot. They recycle ideas in really interesting, clever ways, like we saw in Toy Story. We took the nightmare and we put it in Toy Story 2.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear cartoon opening turned into the video game opening for Toy Story 2. Stuff like that.
Plus, it saves on assets too.
Yes. Stuff like in Nemo, we had the we had the flashback structure, which it was then ended up in Finding Dory, but stuff like that. Anyway,
sometimes it takes years to use the whole buffalo, but they still eventually use the whole buffalo.
Yeah, so in that respect, they kind of took the original Syndrome opening and again they already pulled a lot from it with Syndrome the character, but they pulled Syndrome in the house with the baby, and he's basically he doesn't use the family fully as a battering ram, only use it for one beat, but still the family's helpless while he's holding the baby.
And it somehow ends up being a lot more terrifying than what the original intro would have been.
Maybe he'll make a good sidekick.
It's like, I'll be love, kind, supportive, everything you weren't. Like trying to rub salt into the wound. Oh
yeah. So again, with that Giacchino score, I just love the intensity and just kind of the great kind of 60s kind of vibe to it.
And as I kind of mentioned earlier, I was like, the baby's sleeping.
All right, we got it.
Just the evil laugh afterwards.
Yep. Anyway, so it's a frantic sequence where they're outside. Syndrome's flying up there, and I can't throw anything. It might hit Jack. Throw me, Bob. Throw me.
And so she does, and so he does throw her.
But before that happens, yeah. Jack seemingly is in peril. In reality, it is the other way around.
It's like yep. Suddenly Jack has, as we pointed out, as it seemingly pointed out earlier, he didn't have any powers. But then suddenly he has
all the powers, all the potential.
He can turn into fire, he can turn heavy, he can turn into some kind of demon baby and throttle
shoot lasers out of his eyes, he can
and throttle his neck and throttle Syndrome's neck.
Rip out his giant fire hair, and he was biting the rocket boot.
Which ends up leading to Syndrome's eventual demise, but we'll get to that.
So again, as the baby's hurtling again, just the intensity of the action. This again, it's phenomenal action. Just we toss Helen like a javelin. She catches the baby and is okay, look at mommy. Of course, behind mommy is this giant explosion.
Everything's gonna be all right.
Okay, so Bob, Syndrome's saying, "I will get your son eventually." He's basically threatening revenge.
And then Bob's not having it in that, and then I will get you, and oh no.
So Bob throws his new car that was bought with Syndrome money.
Yep. And then probably one of the most gruesome deaths in the entirety of Pixar.
Well, between this and Hopper, what's more brutal? Like being eaten alive by three monsters, or this?
I mean, I said up there with the most terrifying deaths.
Okay, I thought you said most terrifying. Okay,
I said like one of the most terrifying. Or I said gruesome deaths, but yeah. I mean, Munch just falls very far to his death. But so which is kind of standard villain death.
Yep.
But I mean, not a lot of Pixar villains actually die.
That is true.
Like he's actually one of the Hopper and Syndrome are actually one of the few to explicitly die.
Hopper, Munch, and Syndrome.
Yes.
Yep.
Of course, it brings back another part of the Buffalo. Specifically, Stratogale.
Dynaguy. Thunder. Yeah. Was it Thunder? Thunderhead? Yes, Thunderhead.
Yes. No capes.
Yep.
So basically Bob it's not funny enough, it's not having a car thrown at him that kills him. It's getting knocked into the wind, into the jet turbine, his cape being dragged into it. And then
Okay, so I'm sorry. When you said Strata, I realized that it's perfect. Strata literally died that way too. Yeah, so that's literally the Strata girl fate.
Stratogale.
Stratogale.
Gale.
Is it Gale or Gal?
Stratogale.
Because I always heard it as Gal. I think you're right. I'm just saying I never thought about it. But you're right. That makes more sense.
It's like Strato and then Gale. Like
no, I get you now. I'm up to speed. I got it.
All right.
Anyway, so everyone always. So some people point out, like, Bob kills Syndrome. Like, no. He threw it at the plane, and the plane would go down. Okay, he didn't. It wasn't. He didn't like throw it at Syndrome. He just threw it. Wanted to stop him.
Yeah, but I don't think he would
from getting away.
But obviously, he's not too upset about Syndrome getting killed.
No, of course not. No, I mean, I don't think he wanted the way he died. I don't think he would wish that on anyone, though.
Probably not, but can we just say that Syndrome kind of does deserve it?
Well, no, he deserved it. I mean, he was threatening the baby. He did a lot of really mean things. He killed a bunch of supers, a lot of friends. He killed pretty much he killed all of Mr. Incredible's friends, because all
Pals.
the new, yeah, there you go. Even Mr. Skipperdo, he killed Mr. Skipperdo.
Oh, we're not missing Mr. Skipperdo though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like okay, we'll give you that one, Syndrome.
You're holding the rabbit's hand. That's funnier.
It's like we'll give you that one. We'll give you that one, Syndrome.
Sure. I don't think so. He killed pretty much all of his friends, with the exception of Frozone.
Yep. And so basically, his cape gets sucked into the wind, into the jet turbine, presumably getting and feet first, by the way.
Yep.
So he's like, he doesn't even have so his death would have been a lot slower if it wasn't for the plane exploding.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's like definitely one of those gruesome deaths in like probably any family animated film ever.
Yep. And then again, this is great. The great payoff. Violet saves everyone.
And of course, naturally, the plane falls to the ground, blows up the house.
Yep. Again, the credo on the film was like no sequence left unexploded, because explosions, as you can imagine, were also hard.
Yep. And of course, that was totally wicked!
Yep.
What do you know? He definitely found something amazing.
Yep. And again, it's a nice little moment between Violet and Mother here, where she's like saying, "That's my."
Yeah. She finally created a big force field. Couldn't say. And of course, Dash is like, "Are we gonna have to move again?"
They all laugh.
Unfortunately, it's a shame that Bob's trophy were meant to be destroyed, though.
Yeah. He did. Well, look, I'll say this. We do see an Incredibles 2. He did salvage some of this. Like, he salvaged his suit, actually, so he salvaged a few things.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell in this movie.
No, you're right. In this movie, it's absolutely hard to tell. The house looks pretty much gone.
For all we know, that's a replica made by Edna.
Possible, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, like, come on, my suit was destroyed in the explosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the denouement of the movie,
Yes, well, the denouement.
denouement, whatever.
There you go. So what, does it say? Do you remember does it say 2 weeks or like 6 months?
I'm not. I don't remember.
Okay, the point in time has passed.
It's like I thought the thing is
No,
dragging.
you know, wait, no, it can't be 2 weeks because Dash is only the track team and everything. I think may have been
Yeah.
like 2 months.
Like, the thing is, Dragon. I was watching this movie. I was rewatching the movie, hoping I'd be able to. Oh, I forgot that I didn't know that the stream started at 9. So I was watching, hoping it'd be done by 10 o'clock.
Oh,
So technically, I was in the middle of rewatching it when I got the message. Like, oh crap, it starts at 9.
well, that would explain our delay. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I think I tell you, we're not good. No
I mean, I know,
inside
yeah,
baseball.
I know you told me, but I thought it was going to be at 10. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I was mistaken. So that's my fault.
Okay.
But I've seen this movie enough times where the refresher is more like okay, I can watch The Incredibles again.
All right, so we're at the track meet. Everyone's in a good place. Violet's asking out Tony Ridinger on a date. Who, by the way,
Yeah.
Tony Ridinger, played by, at least in this movie, he is played by Brad Bird's eldest son. I think Michael. I think Michael's the eldest.
Like, you're Violet, right? And then they agreed to go to. I don't know the name of Brad Bird's children.
I think. Okay, if I'm right, I'm pretty sure I got it. Well, actually, no. I almost got it here. So, here. No, I got it. I got it. Sorry, I do got it.
Yeah.
Okay, his youngest is Jack, which is why Jack's named Jack. Nick is the middle child. That's the neighbor kid, Squirt, doing the voice there, and Michael is the eldest, who is playing Tony Ridinger, and may or may not be modeled after him too. Well, they refurbished the model on Tony Ridinger. The point being, Michael voices him. Tony Facili's child voiced Jack, though. His newborn voiced Jack.
Did they reuse the recordings in 2?
I'd like to think so, but I don't know for a fact. And that one might have just been like Sounded Like Baby.
And quick bit of trivia, Dragon. Do you know Brad Bird's full name?
I did. I know it's God. It's I know it's not actually. It's not just Brad Bird. It's something. God.
Philip Bradley Bird.
Right, Philip. Yeah.
So Brad is his middle name.
Yep.
But let's face it, Brad Bird, I think sounds cooler than Philip Bird.
Well, yeah. It's got alliteration.
Oh yeah.
Like Hogarth Hughes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And of course, it's Dash's track meet. I love how he's just how just casual Dash is running
Another thing, so again, Dash has here's that. A lot of Dash is he's perfectly content with second place as long as he gets to use his power, and he knows he can win, but it's a quite gets to show his stuff a little bit there, And
then and then everyone's like, no, go slower. What are you doing? Go faster.
Well, don't give up.
And then the person sitting next to him is like, what are they talking about? It's like, make it close.
God, just priceless. So things have worked out, and then we bring in the Underminers, the ultimate Fantastic Four nod.
It's like I am always beneath you, but nothing is beneath me. I hereby declare war on peace and happiness.
So this really warms the cockles of my heart. Just seeing a nod to the Donner Superman at the end here, where everyone's masking up. And then we end on Bob. And it's a really nice payoff for Bob. It goes full circle again. Every part of the Buffalo. Take a drink, folks. You'll keel over by this point.
Our famous drinking games.
Yep. Essentially, this full circle moment, Bob suiting up at the start. But, it's Bob getting to return to his glory days, which ultimately he did. It's an earned fate. And, he's suiting up yet again to go stop a bad guy, go stop crime.
And of course, he pulls apart his shirt, revealing the eye.
Yeah, it's a perfect ending
to a near perfect movie.
What do you mean near perfect?
I don't know. Nothing's perfect, Dragon. I'm just.
Well, I mean, why can't we give this one perfect? It's 20 years, man. It's his birthday. Give him a gift.
All right, it's It's basically almost as perfect as an animated movie can get.
The only flaw is that car thing. I mean, like we said, we don't care.
It's like, okay, 99.9% perfect.
Yeah.
How's that?
All right, sure. There you go.
I mean, you know me. I'm just giving this a hard time. It's like you've heard me like sing the praises of this movie throughout the entirety of this stream.
It was all an act. It was all a long con.
It's like, Dragon, do you want me to pull what you did when I joked about Toy Story with you?
No.
And then don't dare.
I'm not. You keep bringing it up. Just let it fall to the ground already. Let's move on.
It's like you're impugning my love of The Incredibles.
I'm not impugning. I just said just call it perfect. And we're
it is basically this is almost as perfect as a movie that Pixar has ever made. If you ask me, like
there you go.
Like from beginning to end, like everything set up, paid off. Like the action is incredible. The animation for its, I mean, you can tell the models. You can tell it's in early 2000s based on the character models, but it still holds up. I think even to this day, thanks to the stylization of it. The score is bombastic and amazing, and it's all held together with the glue of the Parr family. I mean, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. For like the family aspect of it. So, to me, it basically is as perfect as a movie as you can get.
Yeah. So, in closing, again, I love The Incredibles,
and the ending credits is like one of my favorite bits of music.
Well, yeah. Well, it's pretty much the highlight reel. That's why.
And it's like do 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 do.
I remember listening. I had the CD for the Incredible soundtrack, and I listened to it a lot while I still had the CD player in the car.
Do you still have the CD?
No, I still have the CD. I don't have the CD player in the car, but I still have the CD.
Well, you need to get like a CD player.
Well, no, I have a. I'm saying now we're in the age where you can listen to it on YouTube. What I'm saying is, I have it, and if I wanted to, I could play it. But
Nothing beats the tactile feeling.
I know nothing beats the tactile feeling. I know that.
Like, Greg, why do you think vinyl's made a comeback? Oh my god, can you imagine listening to the in credits theme on vinyl?
Yeah,
it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I was about to say incredible, but I stopped myself.
Right. Anyway, so. Look, I love The Incredibles. I've always loved The Incredibles. It's kind of a love at first sight kind of a thing. This movie it blew the doors off the place. It was, it's like, how the heck can Pixar get any better? And then this drops in our laps and it just raises the bar. It's like, again, it's could have gone.
It's definitely like in the top 10 of the movies that they've ever made.
No, for sure. I mean, maybe even top 5, depending on who you ask.
Or top 3.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, here's the thing: if we didn't count like individual like sequels and franchise, if we limit the franchise to one film, then I'd say top 3 probably be I don't know. There's a lot of competition.
Oh yeah, I mean, Pixar's been making many movies, but this still basically stands like one of the cream of the crop.
Absolutely, and again, it could have gone really south. It could have gone, It could have been the one that I remember, like they were praying, like please let the next guy, not let again. Brad Bird and John Walker were terrified they were going to make the first flop at Pixar. It's like, oh, let it be the next guy. Don't let it be us. Don't let it be the outside hires.
And well, it turns out their fears were assuaged because they ended up creating like one of Pixar's most beloved movies.
Yeah, not just a good movie. But an incredible movie.
Ah.
There you go. Let's thank the folks for tuning in. We had Code Geass Anime Fan.
And I have one more thing to say. Like, I didn't appreciate fully this movie when I was younger. I wanted to see it, but I didn't really appreciate all the finer nuances of it when I was younger. It wasn't until like watching it years later that I fully picked on like all like the finer details and like what it's like really trying to say about like family and the superhero genre and everything like that. So, still holds up after all this time, and this world would be a lesser place without it. All right.
Yep. So we want to thank the lovely folks for tuning in. We had Code Geass Anime Fan. We had Little Blue. We had
Mutale,
Mutale Munashiku.
Theme Park
Uh,
Priest,
Yep.
Lucas Green.
Yep.
So, I mean, look how long we've talked about this movie, Dragons.
Well, yeah.
So, but I think it's honestly a movie that warrants this kind of lengthy discussion. I mean, it's 20 years of a landmark movie. So,
Yeah.
So, basically, and with the recent announcement of a third one on the way, we haven't seen the last of the Pars yet.
Yep.
Let's just hope their next movie continues to be incredible.
Yep. Remember, kids, no capes.
No capes.